Buckle up, boys. Time to go to work.
Dan Patrick.
Welcome to the Dan Patrick Show, bringing you inside the bubble.
Chris Haynes, who is the favorite?
I still have a Lakers clip, but the Portland Trailblazers, DP, if they sneak in, I think they can be a tough out. And if they happen to get past the Lakers, I can see them going the distance.
Well, we had Chris Mannix on.
Blazers, Sixers in the finals.
I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, Ethan's sending me some stats here, and I haven't even asked for them yet.
Are you sitting around at night, like glowing, looking at your phone? Is your wife like, who are you texting with?
Yeah, late night texting with Ethan, the stats guy.
Like the State Farm commercial?
Who are you talking to?
Ethan.
Yeah. What are you wearing?
Khakis. Broadcasting from the Mercedes Man Cave.
I would like to be drunk with stats.
This is Dan Patrick.
Made it to a Friday. It's hour one, Dan and the Danettes, Dan Patrick Show. Glad to have you on board. We got a busy show here. Try to wrap it up in 3 brief hours here. Seton, Paulie, Fritzy, McLovin, yours truly here. Dan Patrick Show. Those listening, those watching, emailing, tweeting, all the above. Say good morning to Chat Row. Those watching on YouTube, youtube.com/The Dan Patrick Show, and our great radio affiliates around the country, including the formidable Fox Sports Radio lineup. Well, the way pro sports works, owning a franchise isn't a right for life. It is a privilege. Owners have to answer to other owners. They have to answer to their fan base, their sponsors, the commissioners. And we've seen several examples of owners losing their teams. It's really rare when an owner of a professional sports team sells the team and there's not something else attached to this. It just doesn't happen. It gets passed down generation to generation. Marge Schott with the Cincinnati Reds, Donald Sterling, of course, with the Clippers, Jerry Richardson with the Panthers. Yesterday, the Washington Post released a report on allegations of sexual harassment made by 15 women who worked for the Redskins. They described the environment that was completely toxic. Very little, if any, of a human resources department there. And there's a lot more information that will probably come out. And I go back to what I said earlier in the week. You had 2 members of the Washington Redskins who had been there for a while in their player personnel department, and they got fired. And you have a longtime broadcaster who decided to step down, retire. In late July, these things are happening. And I said, well, okay, is there a coincidence, or is this a pattern here of we're going to change the name finally? Preemptive strike. And I started to wonder, and I was being accused of being cynical here, but I was trying to look at the entire picture here. That's all. Daniel Snyder wanted to finally change, and what happened here during the pandemic, Black Lives Matter, he decided that he was going to do the right thing and change the nickname. Okay. And then you started to see a couple other things where 2 longtime members of the Washington Redskins front office, they get fired. Longtime broadcaster, award-winning broadcaster, decides to step down. And now you have the Washington Post story. I think it's in reverse order. I think the Washington Post story was happening, then the name change, then you had some people being fired, and that's why we're here today. And we're going to find out the timeline because we're going to talk to Liz Clark of the Washington Post, who was front and center on breaking this story. We did invite Daniel Snyder on. We asked the commissioner to come on. They both declined. But Daniel Snyder comes into focus. Now, he's not directly accused in the article, but I think what people have to realize when you say, well, he's not involved in this, he is involved in this. It's his team. It's his HR department. It's his culture. It's his employees. Now, he's not accused of anything, but Daniel Snyder's involved in this. And remember the famous quote that Roger Goodell told the Saints before he handed out punishment for Bountygate? Ignorance is not an excuse. We're going to find out if those words still live. Ignorance is not an excuse. So Daniel Snyder can't go, hey, I didn't know what was going on. He can say it, but the commissioner then has to say the following. Ignorance is not an excuse, Dan. The NFL and Dan Snyder reportedly, according to Mike Florio, did not talk last night. The owners have a Zoom meeting today to talk about, I don't know, important things like, is there going to be a preseason? Yeah, that's what they're going to be talking about today. But the owners, the commissioners, I hope that they're listening to these women with what they're saying and be prepared to take action that would be commensurate in how serious the allegations are. People have already made the following mistake. Oh, well, the article's not as bad as I thought. Don't make that mistake because this is bad and there's more information that will come out. I think we're led to believe, and I got information and it was hearsay. It was social media. Hey, by the way, I'm hearing some other names are involved in this. And I think because of that, the speculation was, oh boy, this might be some people we know. These aren't people we know who got fired or stepped down. But that doesn't mean that this is not a serious situation, serious allegations. And Daniel Snyder's been down this road before. This isn't a one and done, like, oh, wow, that's surprising. Remember when Mark Cuban had to clean house with the Dallas Mavericks? That was a long investigation, and it had been going on for close to 2 decades. But Cuban got out in front of it, apologized, made donations. Now, he's generally liked. You may not like his politics. Some may not like his politics, but he's generally liked. Daniel Snyder is the opposite. Cuban got another chance with the NBA. Jerry Richardson, when you're not going to be apologetic and you're probably not well received, well liked, and you're directly accused, and the NFL reportedly did not pressure Jerry Richardson to sell the Panthers. So the spokesperson for the NFL at the time said, hey, we're basically leaving this up to Jerry Richardson. He chose to sell. They did. Come on. That's one of those, hey, you need to announce you're selling it because you think it's the right thing to do. Jerry Richardson did not want to sell that team. Marge Schott did not. Donald Sterling did not. Nobody wants to sell a team. The Wilpon family doesn't want to sell the Mets. And you have a situation here with Daniel Snyder. And if Daniel Snyder, I'm sure he's got some allies here, but that's going to be an uncomfortable call today with those other owners and the commissioner. What do you say? Hey, Dan, how's it going? Hey, Dan, I saw you got a new yacht. Somebody's going to have to say something, and then these owners are going to, do you want Daniel Snyder as an owner in the NFL? Because you have to police yourself. But here's the thing. Daniel Snyder probably is saying, I got a lot of dirt on a lot of you guys. Let's be careful here. Might be taking people down. You don't know how far this goes. But we make a mistake if you say it's not as bad as we thought, or you don't listen to these women and what they're saying. That went on. And it went on consistently. This wasn't that happened one time. These women had no place else to go. There was nobody they could talk to. And are you going to believe somebody who's making $30,000 or somebody who is your broadcaster or your head of player personnel? That's what they're up against. We'll talk to Liz Clark of the Washington Post about this. The timeline of this I'm very curious about, and she'll join us coming up. I mentioned preseason, and look, I'm the bearer of bad news when it comes to a lot of these, these individual sports. It's because I'm trying to get answers here. I'm not going, hey, we're just going to have a football season. Hey, let's just go out and we're going to put 100,000 in the stands. J.J. Watt tweeted out, in the interest of having everyone on the same page in terms of what we know and don't know at this time, here are a few things I've learned being on 4 NFL Players Association calls in the last 2 weeks with hundreds of other players. One part is keep in mind our rookies are scheduled to report in 48 hours. The NFL is not ready. My source said to me 2 days ago, and I told the Danettes, I'm going to see if I can get some more information here. We got a lot of problems and very little time to solve them. That's what I was told. My source said we got a lot of problems and very little time. Remember 3 months ago, the NFL figured out they got time on their side. Yeah, that's it. That's September. Well, we got preseason games coming up. I don't think there's going to be a preseason. And these rookies are showing up in 48 hours. And the NFL is not ready for this. When do you test? How often do you test? When you get the results back? College football's in the same situation, folks. I know, Danny Downer to the rescue, but I'm giving you the reality of this. The head of the NCAA, Mark Emmert, is basically saying, without waving the white flag, I don't know if we can pull this off. You're going to have other leagues that aren't reliant on the income made from football that are going to push this to the spring. SEC, Big Ten, Pac-12, they're going to go kicking and screaming because they need this revenue. And I understand that. I don't think they have the safety precautions in place to ensure that it might happen on time. I just don't see this being, taken through to completion. I don't. And all I'm doing is listening to people. I'm asking questions to people. And I'm just being realistic about it. You want to put people in a stadium? That's the last thing we should be thinking about. If you want to try to play football, okay. Can you get testing? Okay. This isn't a bubble like the NBA. And I applaud baseball. They're a little further down the road than I thought they were going to be. We got 6 days before we have baseball. The NBA bubble, it appears to be doing what it's supposed to do, but you have far less people to keep control over. And you have everybody under one roof. You got 10 days here. I got players who are going, testing positive, leaving. Zion Williamson just left to take care of an urgent family matter. When he comes back, he's going to have to be quarantined. It's going to be difficult. But it feels like the NBA may be able to pull this off. I just don't see how the NFL and college football pull this off. And I know I've been that voice in the wind here, and I've been in the minority, but I'm just trying to be realistic with this. And trying to figure this out when we had all this time, and it doesn't feel like we're any further along when it comes to football. Because we did have time. Back in March, we had time to figure it out. Or at least we thought we did. And then with the NFL, we kept saying, the NFL's got time. Yeah, they did. From what I told, my source said to me yesterday, we're not in any better shape than we were a couple of months ago. And we have to have players that are showing up here next week. That doesn't sound encouraging. It just doesn't. So when I brought this up, when we were going to watch the schedule release party, I said, I'm told by my source, the first month will be moved to the back part of the schedule. And the first game was going to be, I believe, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on a Thursday night. In the new schedule. Maybe I'm wrong with all of this. I'm right there with you as a fan. We want this to happen. But just because we want to, and because it's football, it doesn't mean it magically appears or something disappears. And maybe something comes out here soon. Maybe there's information. I've spoken to somebody privately in the medical community with the NFL about this. And I said, how many tests are you going to have to? He was talking about 60,000 tests. And then when do you get the results back? Let's say college football and you have some players who test positive and then they're down for 2 weeks. 2 weeks in college football, that's an eternity. When you're thinking about you're playing, 12, 13 games? You miss 2? Crazy. Really is. Crazy. And it may get crazier. This program is brought to you by Raycon. BuyRaycon.com/Patrick. These are great wireless earbuds. BuyRaycon.com/Patrick. So we'll check in with Liz Clark. She was part of the Washington Post team that broke this story on the Redskins. I get the feeling, and Liz will be able to correct me if I'm wrong, I get the feeling that their article was on the name change. They started doing work on the name change, investigating the name change, and then they may have stumbled upon a bigger story here. But there were breadcrumbs in this organization of some other things. They had a couple of years ago with a photo shoot for cheerleaders that was off-site, and that got to be a little uncomfortable, I believe, by those who witnessed this. So we'll talk to Liz. Chris Mannix from Sports Illustrated will join us from the bubble, and I'm going to close out the last hour with a little levity. Kevin from The Office, Brian Baumgartner, has a podcast, The Oral History of The Office. And Brian, a good friend of the show, he'll join us to close things out. 877-3DP-SHOW, email address dp@danpatrick.com, Twitter handle @DP-SHOW. McLovin, do you have a poll question today?
I have a totally random, very specific poll question regarding the NBA. Do you want me to share it now or hold on to it?
Let me hear it.
Okay. Which left-handed player are you most fascinated to see where they are when the NBA resumes? James Harden, Ben Simmons, who's now hitting threes in practice left and right, and has become the story of the bubble.
But he's now a power forward.
Yes, he's a stretch forward.
And is he really left-handed?
I know. I was actually wondering, does he belong in the poll?
Okay.
And, of course, Zion Williamson. When does Zion come back? I know he's leaving.
I don't know what the urgent family health matter is or family matter is, but how long he's there, and then when he comes back, and then how long he has to sit out, and then the time frame of these NBA games starting. And they're a team that they basically have to win to get in, and without him, they have no shot. Yeah, Paulie.
If Zion is gone for longer than a week from the bubble, he will still quarantine for 4 days when he gets back. That's if he has a negative test. He still has to quarantine for 4 days. If he doesn't, then if he goes the other way, it's completely different, obviously. But when he comes back after a completed test, it's 4 days of quarantine.
Well, okay, but when do we have our first games?
31st?
11 days.
11 days?
Yeah, 12 days from now, I think.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty tight timeline there. Yeah, McLevin.
Remember when in the beginning of the season they had the entire national schedule based around the Pelicans?
Yeah.
And it bit them. Yeah. What if he's not there for the beginning? They're adding 6 teams just for him, it feels like.
I know. They went out of their way to make sure that Zion got a chance to play. And then he might be there, but not for long. And I will say this, there's a team picking up steam. There is a team that's picking up steam that some of the analysts and experts like to pull off some surprises. I'll talk about that coming up. It's 18, almost 19 after the hour. We'll check in with the Redskins right after this on the Dan Patrick Show. It's a whole new world out there. We're faced with new challenges. If you need legal help to overcome some of yours, that's where LegalZoom fits right in. And maybe you're wondering about the best way to protect your family. You're starting a business, and you don't know the best way to do it. I think we've all been in situations like that where you say, I can't navigate these legal waters. That's what LegalZoom has been doing, dedicated to doing that, finding the right solutions for almost 20 years now. They've been partners with us for a long time, helping you get answers. If you want to have a will or living trust, start a business with a DBA, LLC, nonprofit, LegalZoom's got you covered. You need guidance. They have a network of independent attorneys. They're not a law firm. That's a good thing. You don't have to leave your home. You don't get charged by the hour. So what are you waiting for? And there's no stupid questions, by the way, because if there were, we'd probably ask them. Visit LegalZoom.com today. Take care of some important things that you need to get done without leaving your home. That's LegalZoom.com. LegalZoom, where life meets legal. Couple of documentaries that you're doing. When We Went Mad and Meme Gods. Those are your movies.
Yeah, Mad TV is, I'm making a doc. So I make documentaries. I made one about Paul Newman and his racing life. I made one that they're going to make a movie out of, the 24-hour war. That's Ford versus Ferrari at Le Mans. They're doing that new one with Christian Bale and Matt Damon's playing Carroll Shelby and blah, blah, blah. And I'm making a Carroll Shelby doc. So
and it's Le Mans?
Le Mans.
Do you say Porsche or Porsche?
Well, here's an interesting thought on Porsche and Porsche. Some people say, well, in Germany, say Porsche. In the United States, you could say Porsche. But it's a guy's name. So if you think about it, you wouldn't say, is it Mr. Magoo or Mr. Magoo? It's Mr. Magoo. Yeah. Like, it is Porsche is the name of the guy. So why would you screw around with pronouncing the name differently?
Up Jaguar and Jaguar.
Yeah, but that's not a guy's name, and that's...
well, there could be, like, no, Jorge Jaguar.
Jorge Jaguar. He's a gardener, but he drives a luxury automobile. There is Carnegie, like Carnegie Hall, and then there's a generous grant from the Carnegie Foundation, but that's just PBS,
Doing whatever your hand gesture.
Doing what they do. Have you guys seen The Man with Two Heads yet?
I'm watching the trailer. We're going to play it in the break.
It's mind-numbing.
I got a couple of things to ask you about here. And I guess the Danettes were fascinated by the fact that you don't have a middle name and that you gave yourself a middle name. Now, is that your official middle name is Lakers? Was your official middle name on your driver's license Lakers?
Yes.
Is it still?
Yes. It's on all documents, deeds and certificates.
Okay, walk me through that day when you say, honey, I've got my middle name, and now I got to go change my name.
So I never had a middle name. I wasn't excited about not having a middle name, but not because I needed a middle name, but my parents were pretty laissez-faire in terms of raising their kids. And I felt like this was part and parcel of them raising their kids. Like, we don't need a middle name. So whenever I hear these guys with like 13 middle names, I get so little Dakota, Satchel, like, all right. So I had no middle name. Yeah. And when you have no middle name, constantly there's a box in the middle when you're filling out paperwork and it mocks you. It's like, what is your middle name? And the answer is my parents didn't care enough to bestow me with a middle name. One year I was at the DMV, probably in like 85. I think the Celtics and the Lakers were, right in the heart of the Celtics, Lakers, Bird, Magic, World, Kareem, and everything else. And I was at the DMV and I was filling out some paperwork, and there was the middle box mocking me. And I just looked at it, and I was thinking about the Lakers, and they're right in the middle of the playoffs and blah, blah, blah. And I just wrote Lakers into that box, and then I just turned it in. And from that day forth, it's been on every contract, every piece of license. It's not on my birth certificate, but it is on like passports and every official thing. It'll be on my tombstone.
Are you a Laker fan?
Yeah, I'm okay with them. It was more of a timing thing.
That's the problem. Yeah, in the 80s, it was great to be a Laker fan. Like now you might change it to Clipper.
I should have went to the DMV like every several years and done, Chicago Bulls and then moved on to Golden State and just, been fair weather.
Well, we've been waiting a few days for it. Came out yesterday. Liz Clark, Will Hobson of the Washington Post with the story on the Washington Redskins. And Liz Clark, kind enough to join us this morning. Good morning, Liz. When did you start the investigation on this story?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Dan. Will and I started about 2 years ago, the summer of 2018, which I believe is when the New York Times reported the cheerleader scandal involving the Redskins on their marketing sites, selling access to cheerleaders as a sales tool. So we had gotten reports that, and there was one public document filed, that there was sexual harassment going on, in addition to broader issues of a verbally abusive workplace. I've covered the team as a beat writer for 8 years, off and on over the last 20. So I understand the workplace culture, and I understand that in large part it hasn't changed despite 8 head coaches, 10 if you count interims. So there are some systemic issues there. So 2 years ago, we spoke with several young women in their 20s who had suffered these experiences. Most had left the team at that point, but they were not really ready to share their stories. For the most part, they were very, very fearful. Some because they had been required to sign NDAs, to not discuss their experience, and some just because they feared retribution from the Skins.
What about the timing of this? Why now?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I as you know, this is kind of a seismic moment in the life of one of the NFL's more storied franchises. In the last 5 weeks, the team has announced it's going to change a name, or sorry, that was a process. It's going to change a name. It said that the owner would never change. It's 3 co-owners who represent 40% of the team, have placed their ownership stakes with an investment firm. They would like out, so that is in question. There's a new coach in Ron Rivera who has been brought in to not only change the results on the field, but change the culture. Yet there's no team president, no GM. In some respects, it's rudderless. So there's reasons to hope the team is turning a page, reasons to be skeptical that that's possible for Coach Rivera to do, given what we've seen over the last 21 years. And in this climate, we realized that some of these women were more comfortable, more able to come forward. And we continue to look at, important workplace issues at this very important NFL team, as we always do. And it's been marked by churn, discontent, a lot of NDAs. And most importantly, I think for your viewers, is the simple fact is the results on the field. They've been crummy, and then financially, they're losing a big chunk of a season ticket base that seemed impossible to drive off. It's just a stunning decline in the whole cachet and vibe and pride the city takes in the team for many, many reasons.
What I find sad, and I find it a little embarrassing, that it's up to Ron Rivera to change the culture of the Redskins, Liz. Like, this is Daniel Snyder's team. And while he's not directly implicated, he is implicated. This is his team, his system, his employees, his HR department. It's up to Daniel Snyder to change this, not Ron Rivera, who just got there.
I could not agree more. I'm so glad you're strong on that point and more clear than I. Yes, none of these, the 15 women are alleging any sexual harassment of Dan Snyder or Bruce Allen. That said, as you say, every organization, the culture is set at the top. And I covered 4 of the 8 full-time head coaches in my day, and I saw them come in with great promise and great promises made to them. And a series that they've not been able to effectively change a culture that we can break down, but all told, it does not lead to a winning environment. I know what teams, they can be hard, they can be harsh, but everybody's pulling together. It's a positive, unified, going somewhere. We have an identity. whether it's what are our ethics, or we have an identity in our defensive philosophy or offensive philosophy. This is who we are, what we stand for. This team has never had that. It's constant chaos.
We're talking to Liz Clark, who, along with Will Hobson, had the story in the Washington Post on the Redskins. Is this an ongoing investigation?
It's interesting. So within 12 hours of the story being posted online, I'm getting lots of emails in my inbox from either women, this happened to me, but I can't talk to you. I had something far worse happen to me. So I think there are many women who want to tell their stories.
These are stories that are related to the Redskins.
Yes. Yeah, or the ones that I'm hearing.
Okay.
And again, it spans 13 years. So you can't say it's this administration of Dan Snyder's ownership. It's like normalized. Like it's the prerogative of men in that building to without anyone really being shocked to send texts that say, we're having a bet on whether your breasts are real or fake. Or to say, nice butt, turn around for me. Stuff like that. To upskirt, stand at the bottom and look up the skirt of female employees who generally are in their 20s. So there is that. But I really hope people read and reflect more deeply on the story and see in there that there are cultural issues that if all you care about is football, and you really wanted in this story some lurid, gross detail, and you say, this is life. If that's your MO, fine. I hope you don't have daughters, but if that's what you care about, there is a connection to why this team has only won one playoff game. It hasn't won a playoff game in 15 years, and doesn't sustain success, rarely achieves success.
When's the first time you talked to Daniel Snyder, or have you spoken to Daniel Snyder?
I have not spoken to him on this story, nor has my colleague, Will Hobson. I believe he's out of the country. The first time I spoke to him, he was 34 years old, and he had just bought the team.
Yeah.
So that was 1999. So, I've seen him at the beginning, and I've followed his career, and again, been a beat writer for 8 years there.
These owners don't give up teams. They don't sell a team unless they have to sell a team. We've seen this with Marge Schott, with Jerry Richardson, with Donald Sterling. Could you see a situation where Daniel Snyder is, I guess in parentheses, asked to sell the team?
I've given that a lot of thought. No, and you set that up perfectly, because that is quite true. So what we know is that his three business partners, again, who represent 40% of the team, are trying to sell. They have had enough. They want out. He does not have the assets to buy them out. He need not buy them out. I mean, he's the managing, controlling general partner. That's all you need to be, whether he owns 55 or 60%. He's good with that. From what I know about Dan Snyder, he was not known in DC at age 34. It's not like he was a player. I'm not sure many people would have taken his call. For him, unlike of many other NFL owners who made their success elsewhere, whether that's Stan Kroenke or Dave Tepper, these are $10, $12 billion guys, Dan's identity, his wealth is in this team. It's not a liquid asset, but this is it. This is his calling card. It's really hard for me to see him voluntarily saying, not worth the hassle. And the NFL, as we know, they don't get in each other's business. I can think of two owners in the history of the NFL that have been forced to give up their team, two. And it would be a stretch for them to force that. I think we will see them expressing on some level just a general weariness that this franchise that was once so great, yet another black mark. There have been a series of black marks for the league related to this team, not to mention the fact that you are squandering a wonderful market. It's important for the NFL to be in Washington, D.C. at the seat of power, to entertain lobbyists. That was a big deal to be in the owner's press box or owner's box, and it's not right now.
I still go back to that quote that Roger Goodell told the Saints before doling out punishment for Bountygate. Ignorance is not an excuse. He held them accountable for that. Now, granted, we weren't talking about ownership there, but Sean Payton lost his paycheck for a year here. Guys were suspended. Ignorance is not an excuse. Is not going to work with Daniel Snyder. Did you talk to the commissioner?
No. I have a wonderful coworker, Mark Maskey, I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
So he has reached out to the league. So I should say a couple affirmative things. So the team announced during our reporting, it's in the story, that they've hired an outside counsel, a very accomplished female lawyer, who's going to do an internal review and advise them on their procedures, policies going forward. A big one that is integral to the priorities under Dan Snyder, or lack of priorities, is that there has never been a fully staffed, vigorous, properly trained HR department. So there really was no training in what's a hostile workplace, what is an unwelcome advance. Obviously, every grown man should know that, but is a $3.4 billion business, that's not where you skimp on things. And you should protect yourself as a business. So it's easier to bounce somebody when you say, here's the policy, here's the training, you failed, you're out. Reasons to be hopeful would be, as you said, Ron Rivera coming in, changing the culture. But again, how many jobs is he supposed to have? They have no team president, no GM. He is supposed to change the culture, improve the product on the field, and help design a logo and a new name in consult with Dan Snyder. So I feel for him, and I saw many coaches get burnt out, beat down, kicked out over the last 21 years. He's responded forcefully to this. He's like, this won't be tolerated in my building. You can't ask more from Ron Rivera the last 24 hours on this. And I believe him I believe him to be sincere. It's just, I've seen so many resets of this team that are short-lived.
Liz, thanks for joining us. And my congrats to Will as well with the work that you did on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
That's Liz Clark, the Washington Post, along with Will Hobson with this story. When they say it's an independent investigation, you know what's independent? When the NFL hires the person to investigate the Washington Redskins, not when the Redskins hire somebody to investigate the Redskins. Let me get that straight, okay? Oh, it's an independent investigation. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's a transparent. Hey, we're going to hire a female to come in and investigate us. If the NFL hired somebody to investigate, then you have an independent investigation. This one not quite as independent as you might think there. But Daniel Snyder doesn't do interviews. I think we interviewed him one time, and that was 2004. And he's out of the country. There are just too many things attached to this where you go, okay, wait a minute.
Coincidentally.
Wait a minute. So he's out of the country, okay, on his yacht, and you have two people fired that didn't make any headlines nationally. Then you have your longtime announcer who quits. There's the name change. I'm guessing that Washington Post article coming out, and all of a sudden it's how do we get out in front of this? Sounds like a good time to talk about a name change. And we're going to fire a couple of people. And one person's going to retire. And I'm going to be out of the country. Maybe those are it's all coincidental. I don't think so. But to not have, so imagine having a multi-billion-dollar company and you don't have human resources there. That's why when people go, well, he's not directly implicated. Hey, there was nothing about him sexually harassing anybody. It's his company. He hired the people. He hired the person who hired the people. It's under his watch. And the NFL, the NFL will say publicly they do not pressure the owners. Because you know what you'll do? You'll set a precedent here, and that's a dangerous precedent. But the column is From Dream Job to Nightmare. More than a dozen women allege sexual harassment and verbal abuse by former team employees. We make it seem like they're former team employees like from 10 years ago. 4 days ago, they were employees. But that's in the Washington Post. All right, we'll take a break. Got our play of the day, and Chris Mannix will join us from the bubble coming up as well. My NBA, the sneaky team in the NBA, at least people are starting to notice this. I have that for you coming up next here on the Dan Patrick Show.
Today, Dan, is National Tattoo Day. You have tattoos, plural. Seton has tattoos, plural. So I'm going to defer to you guys on this. I love tattoos. Never gotten one. Fritzy has never gotten one. So years ago, I almost got a tattoo. I'd say probably 10 years ago. And I didn't have a lot of ideas for a tattoo. And this is probably definitely not the most original idea of all time. But I saw my family crest. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool tattoo. Yep. You got to get someone really good to do it, right? Seton, that's a detailed tat. But then as I was doing my research and preparing to get said tattoo, I found that my family crest was also this and also this, depending what part of history you looked at. And I couldn't pin it down. And the last thing I want to be is one of those guys who gets a tattoo they regret.
Right.
Or misspelled or
misidentified. Or maybe there's a bad history with one of these paps.
Yeah, those were the bad side of
it. And in these political times, that guy can represent who knows what.
Cancel culture and all
that. Papst in German means pope. It means the leader of the church. And so I felt, I had a chance. But I did some looking up in case anyone else here would like to freshen up their tat game or get one. Seton.
Ooh. Yep. That's one of the many O'Connor crests.
Right.
There's got to be a dozen of them.
But I noticed the trend of the tree with the roots in a lot of them.
Yeah.
That's gorge.
Yeah. A lot of them have there's like the arm with the holding the like knife or the sword with the snake wrapped around it. That's very common.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have room, but if you did, the toddler, I pretty much confirmed I found this one in a lot.
Unicorn.
It's kind of like Todd pointed north.
It's kind of hoping it'll be orange and blue colors, but yeah,
I think the colors you could change as long as the crest itself.
I thought that looks a little bit like Pabst, one of the Pabst ones.
It does.
Yeah.
You got a lion, a horse.
Go to the next one.
Back to Fritzy's?
Yeah, no, you.
Your second one.
Okay. Got this one.
The unicorn's pretty great.
It's the same.
Yeah, a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
O'Connor.
Yeah.
Fritzy, you interested?
Not really.
You got room. You got huge arms.
I know. I'm not. Nah, I can't go there.
It's too bad
I think it's also a religious thing. We've talked about this, that you can't be buried in a Jewish cemetery with a tattoo. So then I got to go through like legal with the rabbi and everything. And
you can get a dispensation or something?
It's possible if I wanted it bad enough, but I think it's been kind of written in stone. I don't know if my rabbi has the power.
Well, look, bring out the guns for a second. I mean, you got some room, man.
You can make that horse really dance.
Gallop.
Yeah, that unicorn.
If I had Todd's arms, I would get a tat.
It is the top there kind of looks like a football, like the very top of the brown. Doesn't it look like the stitching is going across?
Yeah.
So that could be cool.
National Tattoo Day.
That's fun.
Can we do a scenario here? Can I? I'm going to bring the Danettes up, and we have a scenario. And if you're watching, you can see this. We have two scenarios according to Paulie. Okay.
Remember now, two scenarios. You could be ejected if they're both fouls.
Okay. So
Dan, this is loosely based on the Antonio Brown catch fumble the other day.
Ooh.
We're going to ask Mike to call it. I'm the receiver, Fritzy's the defender. And what does he see?
Okay.
Ready?
Okay. Paulie caught it. 2 feet down. Fritzy knocked it out of his hands. What would you call, Mike?
I would call that bang, 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 bang. That's the terminology we use, bang, bang.
But what's the call?
In real time, that is so close, it is clearly an incomplete pass.
Wow.
You got to get control, you got to get 2 feet, and then you happen to have an element of time. You had no time. It's incomplete.
All right.
Really good
That was good
defensive
play by
play.
you, right?
Well done,
Really
Fritzy.
good
I'm
gonna be
defensive
a
play.
Lockdown
pro-
corner.
I'm gonna be a Pro
Todd
Bowler.
Fritz.
Okay.
Dan, this will be an offshoot of that. Are you
Okay.
ready, Mike? Ready for the same one?
He made a football move, but did he hold on to it long?
That's not a football move.
not a football
Okay.
move.
Because it's me?
That to me was like him turning
There's
to go to
nothing
the
athletic
bathroom.
about that
I mean,
whatsoever.
There
All
was
right.
nothing
That's a
athletic.
shot at Paul.
Okay, here's the other one. You're the official, and Seton has just scored a touchdown, and this is his
So,
celebration.
We come back. Boom. Touchdown. Boom.
There's a little bit of pelvic thrusting there. Would you call
Pelvic thrusting, as called this past weekend, pelvic thrusting is a foul.
It is.
I'm not going to the ground.
We call it in the, but that to me, which I'm so old now I hardly remember this stuff anymore, but is a sexual gyration. And sexual gyrations are not allowed on the field. That is a penalty and a flag for embarrassing yourself.
Would you have called Eli Manning in the grass
No.
in the Super Bowl?
No.
You would not? Okay. What if they did on that play?
We'd be minus one of the great plays in the history of the Super Bowl.
Oh my God.
The play of the day.
Runner left side, got it. Ready to play it and play it.
This is the play of the day.
Check this out. Taps it out to the right. Here's the break to the left to the cup for Tiger Woods. Watch out. There it goes. Right in the middle as it broke to the left. A birdie at the last here at 18 for Tiger Woods. He finishes 1 under.
Courtesy of SiriusXM PGA Tour Radio at Jack's Place. Tiger is back. He birdied 18 to finish 1 under after round 1. I want to see Tiger with Bryson DeChambeau, see those two paired up, because I was watching yesterday and Jack Nicklaus has been talking about the golf ball for, I think, 40 years, that you really need to have a universal golf ball or you have to have some modifications or restrictions. Now, people have criticized Jack by saying, oh, you don't want anybody to be able to challenge your records. Jack has been saying for the betterment of golf, because we keep lengthening golf courses. I never understood this, because you want to tiger-proof a golf course. You don't lengthen it. You narrow it. You tighten it. These guys who hit the ball a long way, golf should still be about making shots, hitting shots, not just sheer power. And if I can take away a little bit of your power by making you more accurate. But Bryson DeChambeau, it's fascinating to watch. He hit a drive over 430 yards yesterday. In fact, they showed Jack where the drive landed, and then they showed Bryson DeChambeau's second shot. And Jack goes, no, that's not his second shot. Like he was reacting in real time. And they go, yeah, that's he basically could throw it on the green. That's how close Bryson DeChambeau was. Bryson DeChambeau played a practice round with Tiger earlier in the week. When Bryson DeChambeau didn't hit a great drive, he hit it 15 yards past Tiger Woods. When he hit a great drive, he hit it 50 yards past Tiger Woods. And Tiger's not Tiger, the old Tiger, but Tiger can still move it out there. Bryson DeChambeau, now these other players, Tony Finau, who's one of my favorite players, he said, kind of looking at Bryson, figuring, why don't I just swing a little bit harder? I don't know where we're going, but the golf ball is the key here, because the golf ball, I keep thinking Augusta is going to go, if you want to play the Masters, here is the Augusta, the official Masters golf ball. Now, sponsorship issues, or you can work in conjunction with Nike to have their logo on there, or it's the Chrome Soft from Callaway. You can work around that, I think. But if I'm Augusta, there's not a lot more land that I can acquire here. You want to? I hope that we don't render some of these golf courses, not meaningless, but not as imposing as they should be. Because it's still, golf is about hitting a great shot. It's like the tennis racket. John McEnroe was an artist. But in today's sport, he'd have to be a power guy. And he probably wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, John would have to be Nadal. These guys are so powerful, but those rackets are so powerful. The equipment, there's no rallies anymore in tennis. It's basically serve, maybe a return, maybe then another return, and that's it. You go back and watch old tennis where it was back and forth. Great shots, but it was about the artistry of doing it. And I know maybe I'm caught up in, some long time ago. Oh, I remember how great it was. I see what they're doing with these golf courses. And, that's all Jack is saying is make it more of a level playing field for great golf to be played. Not just, I can hit the ball 450 yards. Play of the day, as I step down from my soapbox. Play of the day brought to you by Raycon. Wireless earbuds, the right way to go. Get 15% off your Raycon order at buyraycon.com/Patrick. That's buyraycon.com/Patrick. Yes, polyester.
Whoever is Bryson DeChambeau's golf sponsor should do like the new set where it's a driver, a wedge, and a putter. He just brings 3 clubs to the course.
Well, here is, it's not an argument. It is a discussion about Bryson DeChambeau. He can hit it really far, but is he any good? Like, he's in contention, but I want to know, can he chip and can he putt? Because if he can't, then this doesn't matter. There are a lot of guys who hit it a long way, but it's still the guys who get on the green and can make some magic there. And I think that'll be the challenge for Bryson DeChambeau. But I'd love to see Tiger with Bryson DeChambeau. I mentioned the NFL Players Association, and I'll get to my sneaky NBA team. This is what I'm told, that the Players Association in the NFL wants testing every day and no preseason games this year. The NFL wants less frequent testing every other day, and they want 2 preseason games. I don't see preseason games happening. And as far as the testing goes, I think whatever is going to have everybody feel safer as they're doing this. But when J.J. Watt starts talking, like when your name players start talking, then you realize there's some things that they got to be firmed up here really soon because players are arriving in 48 hours. 48 hours. All right, here's your sneaky team. And I don't normally agree with this analyst who had this team as a sneaky team. Here is Charles Barkley on the sneaky team.
If the Portland Trail Blazers get in the playoffs, they will beat the Los Angeles Lakers in the first round.
Okay. The Portland Trail Blazers are picking up steam. If they get in, and that goes back to Chris Mannix, who I never agree with Mannix. So Mannix is coming up. I'm going to let him take a victory lap a little bit here because there's a lot of people starting to jump on the Blazers bandwagon, which means, of course, they probably won't even make it into the first round. But Mannix has the Blazers and the 76ers in the NBA Finals. Yes, McLevin.
See, we have to ask him. I think he was kidding. Mannix was.
Well, I don't know. Was he kidding when he said all those other things that were wrong in the previous years?
Like, this wasn't a Spain. This wasn't a Spain is stacked.
Remember when he yelled at me about Anthony Bennett and I said I'd take Victor Oladipo? And then he doubled down. He said, I'll take Ben McLemore.
So was he saying the Blazers are going to be in the NBA Finals?
Yes. I think I was saying, well, give me your surprise team, maybe. And he said Portland. But even then, Portland to go to the finals as a surprise, that's a true surprise. I never agree with Barkley on his picks, and I never agree with Mannix.
Put all your money against the Blazers right now.
The Blazers have to be surprised at this. All right, we'll talk to Chris Mannix from Inside the Bubble and Brian Baumgartner. He played Kevin on The Office. He'll join us as well on this Meet Friday. Seton Pauly, Fritzy McLevin, yours truly, right here on the Dan Patrick Show. suggests the following. In 2001, Melissa Stark was detained in Mexico after a security guard, not knowing she worked for ABC covering an NFL game, refused her, Al Michaels, Dan Fouts entry to the stadium. The detention lasted a while before the matter was resolved. Charges were dropped. Stark admits to being quite embarrassed that she couldn't communicate with Mexican police since Spanish was one of her majors. True?
False. Wait, parts of it are true.
Wait, what?
Spanish was one of my majors, okay?
You weren't detained.
I was not detained. I was never arrested. I don't know anything about that part. Wikipedia also says I'm 5'4".
And you're 5'2".
So when Kyler Murray, no, I'm not. So when I was interviewing Kyler Murray.
Wait, what bothers you more, that you're listed at 5'4" or you were detained in Mexico?
Maybe the 5'4". Maybe the 5'4". Well, because everybody was wondering how tall Kyler Murray was at the draft when I was standing next to him, and I was taller than he was in heels. I was not detained, but I don't speak great Spanish, so let's not.
But that was a major.
Speak Spanish. It was a
minor.
It was a minor. I think it was a minor. But if you don't use it, you know that. I mean, I don't know if you speak another language.
I do not.
Okay.
I do not.
Then you don't know.
I barely speak this one. Yes, I'm working on this one. I'm getting my undergraduate.
No, but
degree.
that was good memories of going back to Mexico City with that crew.
What's your favorite Monday night story? Because you're with legends there doing the Monday night games.
Right.
Is there one that stands out?
Well, we had a couple of that first season that we did. It was in 2000, and for some reason, all the games, literally all the games came down to the wire. We had the longest game in Monday Night Football history. That was the Vinny Testaverde game.
Yes.
And I just remember, we had some funny stories because we had Don Ohlmeyer, the old producer that, started it in the 70s. And he was a legend in the business, but, it was great. It was great. The Antonio Freeman catch. We had that one. We had some really awesome games, but I do remember my second game ever doing the sidelines. So, I was nervous. I was young. I was 26 years old. I was out there. And they wanted me to stand like as close as I could to the pyrotechnics when I was doing my live shot.
Oh no.
And my sweater caught on fire during the live shot. During it. It was awful. It was, but I got through it. You know what? I got through. I don't know if you saw this, but I was hit in the head with a football in London last year.
I had heard about that.
Yeah. So I had not done. I returned to the sidelines in London doing these international games on NFL Network, and I hadn't done it in 15 years. And the best was the makeup artist was standing there, and she didn't know anything about American football, so she kept flinching every time the footballs came near us. And I said, "Don't worry, it'll never hit you." And boom, I was hit by a football. So. I've had a lot of good experiences on the sideline.
Were you in concussion protocol after that?
You know what? I was not. I was not. It actually, luckily, I thought about how it could have actually been really bad, but it kind of hit my shoulder and looked worse than it was.
And when it's live,
I just kept going. I just kept talking. The best was I was talking. I knew they weren't listening to a word I was saying in the studio because they were laughing so hard.
Who threw it?
No, it was Brett Kern. It was a punt.
Oh.
So it was bouncing up. Yeah. The guys in London didn't necessarily know how to handle them. The guys that were shagging them.
Buckle up, boys. Time to go to work.
DP.
Dan Patrick.
Welcome to the Dan Patrick Show, bringing you inside the bubble.
Chris Haynes, who is the favorite?
I still have the Lakers clip, but the Portland Trailblazers, DP, if they sneak in, I think they can be a tough out. And if they happen to get past the Lakers, I can see them going the distance.
Well, we had Chris Mannix on.
Blazers, Sixers in the finals.
Well,
I wouldn't go that far.
oh, Ethan's sending me some stats here, and I haven't even asked for them yet.
Are you sitting around at night, like glowing, looking at your phone? Is your wife like, who are you texting with?
Yeah, late night texting with Ethan, the stats guy.
Like the State Farm commercial?
Who are you talking to?
Ethan.
Yeah. What are you wearing?
Khakis. Broadcasting from the Mercedes Man Cave.
I would like to be drunk with stats.
This is Dan Patrick.
Hour 2 on this Friday. Dan and the Danettes, Dan Patrick Show. Glad to have you on board. Spent a lot of time in the first hour talking about the Washington Redskins situation after the Washington Post article dropped yesterday afternoon. We'll check in with Chris Mannix from Sports Illustrated inside the bubble. Seems like there are a few people agreeing with Chris that the Portland Trailblazers could be a sneaky, dangerous team once the restart happens. No, I'm being serious. Mannix may get something right here because he said he's got the Blazers and the Sixers in the NBA Finals. So we'll talk to Chris, and then we'll lighten the mood. Coming up in the final hour, we'll talk to Kevin from The Office. He's Brian Baumgartner, friend of the show. He's got a podcast, The Oral History of The Office, and he will set the record straight. Did Jim from The Office wear a hairpiece during one season of The Office? You guys are looking at me like I'm crazy. Jim, I'm told, had a hairpiece one of the seasons in The Office because he was filming a movie. So we'll talk to Kevin about that.
Big accusation by you.
Yes, it is. Well, especially when it comes to hair. But I'm very serious about hair. And I can tell if you're painting it and if you have a wig on. So we'll talk to Kevin from The Office. He'll join us coming up. Poll question, McLovin. Did we even settle on one for the first hour?
Yeah, we did not.
Okay.
I picked up a backroom debate. They were talking NBA off my left-handed poll question, which nobody cared about. Which left-handed guy are you most curious about? Ben Simmons, James Harden, or Zion? Who is the face of the NBA if you take LeBron out? LeBron's the current GOAT. Forget him. Is it James Harden, Giannis, or Zion Williamson? Or maybe Steph Curry is an alternate.
Is Luka in there too?
I don't think so. I don't know. Do you think Luka is the face of the NBA?
No.
Durant. I guess the older guys, we're not really putting them in this poll.
Yeah, Paul.
I think Steph Curry was 1A as the face of the NBA to everybody, especially young people, until he got hurt and the Warriors went away. But there was a while there where the only people my kids knew were LeBron James and Steph Curry.
But I also think this was only 1 year without Steph Curry, even less than 1 year. And he'll be back, and the Warriors are going to be back, and the Warriors are going to have the number 1 overall pick. The Warriors are going to be, could be the team to beat next season. So Steph Curry would go right back to being one of those faces. I think there's a precipitous drop-off, though, from LeBron to who is the next face. We don't know much about the Greek Freak, like his personality. Seems like a pretty quiet guy. I know 60 Minutes did a profile on him a while ago, and it basically was, this is where he came from, came over here, and he kind of fits in with Milwaukee as far as the city. Trying to think who else. James Harden, we don't know much about. Kawhi Leonard, we don't know much about. Yeah, McLovin.
But there's something about Harden, though, that is different. He just seems to draw attention.
I think the beard, if he didn't have the beard, so you have the beard and the style of play and the fact that he doesn't have a conscience. I'm talking about on the court. I don't know about off the court. But I think we can all sort of relate to Harden, that he's a gunner, but then there are other things that we can't relate to. Steph Curry, we can relate to. Anybody who's played basketball can relate to Steph Curry. I can't relate to LeBron James. or the Greek Freak. Steph Curry, I can. You don't have to be able to jump out of the gym. Big, exceptionally athletic, quick. He just is a great shooter. Now, he's more than that. But I think it's if you're going to be the face, it also helps that we look at you and we put you on a pedestal, or you're relatable, or we like you. Jordan was just different because he was a marketing genius with Nike, and he became more than just a basketball player. But when he did play, we were still fascinated by what we saw. But you throw in everything there, this confluence of everything he was doing on the court and off the court, and there was a true fascination, even though we never knew Michael Jordan. And we still don't know Michael Jordan. But it feels like we know a little bit more about LeBron and Steph Curry. Luka we don't know much about. Harden we don't know much about. Greek Freak we don't. Kawhi we certainly don't know. So I'd probably say Steph Curry is the face of the NBA, even though he's not playing right now. Zion's pretty close, though.
I would say Zion.
Yeah. Well, if Steph Curry was playing now, would you still say Zion?
But I just looked it up. He's already 32.
Well, if I give him 3 more years, because what he does is not predicated on being a great jumper. I mean, it's still, he's never going to lose that shot. Never. Like when we go to the Final Four, we shoot around with Reggie Miller. Reggie's 50, and Reggie shoots as well, if not better, than 3/4 of the NBA right now. That shot will never leave him. The question is, how good will that team be around him, with him, and that'll keep him relevant. Yeah, McLevin.
Who gets a lot of attention lately is Damian Lillard. Not that he's a face of the NBA. He seems to have a hot streak going personality-wise.
He's a lot of fun, and he's not afraid. And he plays for the Blazers as we come full circle here. Eric Bledsoe, the Bucks, just tested positive for COVID-19. Here's a stat that, of course, Ethan, our stat guy, gave to me. If you include the 2019-2020 season, Eric Bledsoe has averaged at least 15 points and at least 5 assists a game in 7 consecutive seasons. Here is the list of players who have done that. Average at least 15 and 5 in 7 consecutive seasons. Eric Bledsoe, James Harden, Damian Lillard, Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, and LeBron James.
Stat of the day, stat of the day, stat of the day, stat of the day. Here comes that what? Stat of the day.
Once again, my thanks to Ethan, our stat guy, for providing me with that information. Yes, McLevin.
Real useful stat, by the way. It tells you a lot about Eric Bledsoe's game.
No, the fact that he's in that short group there. If I said, hey, what does Eric Bledsoe have in common with LeBron, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, Damian Lillard, and James Harden, you'd never know 7 consecutive seasons, at least 15 and 5.
But that's the problem with pure stats, guys. All us Bucks fans know that Bledsoe's inconsistent shooting is doomed the team. It literally cost them the playoffs last year.
Yeah, that he can hurt you. He can help you, and he can hurt you.
He's playing well this year, though, before the pandemic. So,
one of the more controversial aspects of the NBA bubble in Orlando is the violation hotline. It's the snitch hotline. It's the violation hotline. If a player sees somebody breaking a rule, he's supposed to call it in. Few players have already spoken out against it, and reportedly the hotline has been used a few times. Dwight Howard said he got busted for not wearing a mask. So it's still early with this snitch line. It'll be a lot more important once the playoffs start. You know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing Dwight Howard didn't have a mask on. Teams and individuals, are they going to be above using the hotline to get a competitive advantage? We're going to find out. But if this was the NFL, that hotline would be lighting up all the time. Teams report on each other all the time. You know, the injury report list, they're always doing that. Yes, Eden.
You know, you're going to find out if that hotline is really anonymous, too. Because if, you have a game coming up against the Lakers and you're like, hey, we got 5 reports that LeBron was out last night, and it's anonymous, you have no way of knowing who's sending that in, or do you?
But are they recording this? Is it just like operators are standing by, like the Time Life or when you're ordering Sports Illustrated subscription?
How may I direct your call, please?
I'm hearing Dwight Howard is not wearing a mask. Okay. Well, thank you.
Noted.
But I'm waiting for the audio to come out of this. Somebody's voice is going to be on there. Are you going to disguise the voice? I'm hearing that Dwight Howard is not wearing a mask. Yes, Todd.
But they're not going to just take someone's word for it anyway. If you try to get somebody in trouble to get an advantage and make somebody miss an upcoming game, I would think they would have to do some kind of investigating. And if for some reason you're caught false reporting somebody, you should get punished the other way.
Well, you could check security tapes. Like if you are out publicly, that's when somebody's going to bust you. And at Disney World, I'm sure they got cameras everywhere on everybody. Yeah, Paul.
But I think the NARC phone should be right in the middle of the lobby, like the house phone at hotels. You go to a hotel, and the house phone. The NARC phone should have a light on it. You do it. You take your chances. You're standing there, whatever time of day.
NARC phone. Yes, McLevin.
Did you see yesterday the NBA was sending warnings about bringing people in and answering for food service with your clothes on and stuff?
Oh yeah.
So things are already clearly happening, don't you think?
That one caught my eye. So I saw this, Malika Andrews of the Mothership. She said, the league sent out a memo, which was obtained by ESPN, to teams reminding them of campus rules, including wearing face coverings / mask, dressing appropriately when receiving room service, and going through a mandatory educational session on campus rules. The second one kind of stands out a little bit there. Room service. Oh, I'm sorry. Forgot to get dressed. Yes, Todd.
What's the big kick out of being naked when you're opening the door? Like, I'll put a towel on. I've never opened the door absolutely naked. I've had, you cover yourself up. Whether
Todd,
you're well endowed or not, whatever you're trying to show off to whoever may be opening the door there. I know there's stories in the locker room that get a kick out of intimidating reporters but like, why? What's the pleasure of doing that? Why is that amusing to open the door and not have a pair of shorts or sweatpants?
You tell me.
I'm saying I've never answered the door completely naked.
No, but you'd have a towel on.
Yeah, but is that what they're talking
about? That's improper.
They would make a big deal about if a guy was just wearing a towel. Todd, that would be offensive to someone bringing up room service?
Todd, would you walk into a restaurant with a towel on?
I think a restaurant and room service is a very different thing. It's a hotel room versus...
It's still a business transaction.
I guess. If someone's upset, bring up room service, and someone just was wearing a towel.
I'm gonna protect you from you. I know you're being serious, and I'm gonna protect you from you. You shouldn't be commenting on this. You shouldn't, Todd.
Do you think when Adam Silver was getting his law degree at the University of Chicago, one of the most prestigious schools in America, he's thinking, someday I'm going to have to write a memo about NBA players wearing clothes when they get takeout?
When they have room service?
Yeah. Okay, fellas, just a couple of items here to address. Real quick, we want to make sure that we're on time for practice every day.
Wear a mask.
Wear a mask. Let's socially distance. Be sure don't touch your face. Wash your hands regularly. Hey, just make sure that you're fully clothed when you answer the door at your hotel room. And we've got tacos for lunch today. All right? See you later, guys. Thanks.
Any questions?
Okay, let's ready break.
Any questions? Yeah. There are people called exhibitionists, Todd. That's what happens sometimes.
I know, but like there's exhibitionists, and then that's what you hear like on the news, maybe some creepy guys walking around the street. But if you're a professional athlete, you would think maybe you would know a little better than that, as opposed to some creepy guy in the bushes that hopes that someone's going to catch him naked.
This is not defending him, but I always did find the nudity in NBA locker rooms the most unusual thing ever. Like that you were there, that press has always had to cover naked NBA players without even like any controversy. Like that's been going on for centuries, right?
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
It's different with it. Not centuries. Yeah.
I don't know about
Back to the Roman Empire, Nike.
Yeah. Those guys never had clothes on in the Roman Empire.
But yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah. Let's move on.
Tell Andrew's damaged right now. Just running back through some memories.
Yeah. Okay. So, baseball coming up, NBA at the end of the month. Anything else needs to be brought up here? No, we good? Yeah.
I still don't get it.
Yeah, I know.
My turkey club's coming. How great is it going to be when I open the door naked?
Todd,
I have to do that.
Todd, I'll talk to you privately about this, but you should understand. going to the door when room service comes in and you have a towel on is inappropriate. A robe, sweatpants.
Yeah, that would be better.
Yeah, but you can't.
I'm referring to someone that's wearing just socks, that's naked, as opposed to. You could talk about layers.
Nobody
of clothing.
said. Yes, McLevin.
Random question. Do you guys order room service when we're on the road? Because I feel like Todd's the only guy that does that out of us.
Well, Todd does takeout.
Yeah, I rarely do room service. I'll go get food. You know, I don't have them really delivering much.
Yes,
I'll do room service sometimes, for sure.
At the Super Bowl, I do room service.
If we're at a place and we get up earlier and then I get home and it's for lunch or something, I know I'm going to take a nap. I'll have a bite to eat and go to sleep.
When we go to L.A.,
yeah,
I'll do room service.
You're supposed to just leave it out there.
Yeah.
Do you call anybody when? I don't order a lot of room service.
By leave it out there, you mean?
Yeah. Not like Todd does.
That's when you put the tray, you leave the tray outside.
Outside your door, right?
Outside your door.
Do you call anybody, or is it just someone's?
I just leave it there. They always say call us, but I just leave it there.
Yeah, leave it.
Yeah. Have you ever walked by to see what somebody had room service wise?
You always take a peek.
Yeah, I do. Like I'll see, like, 2 bottles of champagne, or they didn't even finish the wings. Why do you need 9 ketchups?
That's always the worst part is when you order some drinks and they're like, okay, do you need 2 glasses for that?
Oh, no.
Just one. Just one. Oh, bottle. Okay, you need 2
by
glasses?
yourself.
No, just one.
Oh, what a loser. Yeah. We were wondering about the situation with the Washington Redskins, and the Washington Post have been working on this for 2 years. But the timing of this, though, I find interesting. And if you're FedEx, because what happens is you're going to get somebody's attention, a billionaire's attention, when it has to do with money. And if you have a 25-year partnership and you got, 5 more years of this sponsorship with FedEx, if FedEx wanted an out and to look good, even better, to say, hey, we bailed on this franchise here, you could save money and you could improve your brand, I would think, because you're going to get a lot of publicity saying, we don't want to be involved in this toxic culture with the Redskins. But does Daniel Snyder do an interview? And I don't think he does. And if I'm Daniel Snyder, I wouldn't, because unless he has this buttoned up of what he can say, he can make this worse quickly. And Mark Cuban is used to doing interviews. When he had his issues with, inside the Mavericks organization, he got out in front of it, but he is polished at doing interviews. I don't know if Daniel Snyder is polished, and he's out of the country. Fritzy did reach out to Daniel Snyder's office, and he wasn't available. Who said no quicker, the commissioner's office or Daniel Snyder's office?
It was very close. I'd say the Washington NFL team maybe a little bit quicker.
Okay.
But they both got back to us in a very timely fashion, even though it wasn't the desired result.
A timely fashion. Yeah. I always love a timely fashion when somebody says no.
Well, Paulie always loves it when they give the excuse they're out of the country because technology ends once you go out of the United States. There's nothing
well, no,
works.
Paulie will always do this. When we're trying to get somebody and we think, okay, now's the time this person should be talking, they say, not available. And then Paulie will go, not available forever? Oh, so we'll call you the next time this
pandemic.
Happens. Yeah.
I do get a little crazed. I tell Todd, tell him we're available 24 hours a day, and Dan will sit in the studio 24 hours a day waiting to tape. Now, are they unavailable?
Yeah.
Todd's like, I can't send
well,
that
He just can't do that. He can't do it any time from the history of time, from now forever. He'll never be available to take 7 minutes to talk to them.
What really bothers me, we'll get a junior college coach. His team will score 137 points in a football game. And Coach can't do it Monday, maybe in a week or two. I'm like, we're not going to call a junior college in Tulsa again to check on how the league is going. Your team scored 137 points in a football game. That's why we want to have you on.
I remember we were trying to get Ricky Fowler on because, Ricky Fowler's popular and he had a big win, maybe the Players' Championship. And maybe it's his first win. And he was unavailable. And then Paulie's like, oh, okay, great. We'll get to you the next time you have your first win on tour. Yeah, Paul.
I'll say it. Dustin Johnson drives me crazy and his people, the golfer. That guy does no interviews. He's one of the more popular, not popular.
He's not a good interview.
Well,
I think that's why he doesn't do interviews.
But we said that about Brooks Koepka 4 years ago. He was never doing interviews. We tried, and then he became a superstar golfer. Now he's getting really good with the media. He's getting really comfortable in his own skin.
I like Brooks Koepka.
He's becoming a superstar.
He's honest.
And Dustin Johnson's been really good at golf for a long time, but he's not a star because he doesn't talk.
He's just not polished. That's it. He's just not a good interview. And I think it probably is best that he doesn't do interviews. Ricky should do interviews because Ricky's got all these sponsors. And he seems like he has a great personality, and he's friends with Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth, and they hang out together. And that would be somebody that he could capitalize even more. But I look at Ricky Fowler the way I once did Andre Agassi. Andre Agassi, to me, it was style over substance for quite some time. Because remember it was about his hair. And, the way he dressed. And, Nike really presented him in a way that this was a complete package. He just had to start winning. And then he became a really good, great tennis player. And then it paid off. Like Ricky is in that same situation. It feels like he's on the verge of something. And maybe this is just who he's going to be throughout his career. But we try to package athletes. And or at least, marketing people try to package them. And I look at Ricky the way I did Andre Agassi. But Agassi became a great Hall of Fame tennis player. All right, we'll take a break. People are agreeing with Chris Mannix that the Blazers are the sneaky team in the West. Mannix will join us from the bubble right after this on the Dan Patrick Show. The newest model is the Everyday E25 earbuds. They're from Raycon. And they start at about half the price of any of the other premium wireless earbuds on the market. They sound just as good, if not better. You're going to love, there's a lot of things here. Seamless Bluetooth pairing. You got 6 hours of playtime. You got more bass in there. You're going to love the nice noise isolating fit. Raycon's wireless earbuds are so comfortable, perfect for conference calls or video chats, or if you're just binging a podcast here. The Raycon earbuds are both stylish, discreet. There's no dangling wires or stems there. And if you don't take my word for it, Snoop Dogg, Cardi B, Melissa Etheridge, just some of these celebrities, some of my friends who love the Raycon wireless earbuds. Get 15% off your order at buyraycon.com/Patrick. That's buyraycon.com/Patrick for 15% off. Buyraycon.com/Patrick. Good luck. We were wondering, over under, how many Grateful Dead concerts you went to with your dad?
I'd probably say about 9 or 10.
Okay. I thought it might have been higher.
I was pretty young. Let me rephrase that. 9 or 10 that I can remember. They used to take us to a bunch when we were little, not like that, but when we were little kids that I don't really recall. But once we got a little bit older, I remember going to some of the shows with him.
Did you understand why your dad loved the Grateful Dead so much?
No idea. As a kid, I had no idea why my dad did most of the things that he did. It hasn't. Not until I've gotten older have I really started to appreciate what he was all about, and, what it was like and how cool it was growing up with him.
When did you realize how famous your dad was?
Probably in junior high school. I always remember being a kid and people stopping and asking for pictures, but I just didn't really get it until I got a little older and I got really into basketball myself. And was playing in camps, and then, people would really, everywhere I go, people would tell me, "You have any idea how great your dad was?" And I'd be like, "No."
He's a funny dude. I was telling a story that I gave him a ride one time from New Jersey to New York into the city, and I had a Jetta. and he sat in the front seat and sang at the top of his lungs Bob Dylan songs the entire trip from New Jersey NBA Entertainment to the city. And I tried to turn the volume up as loud as I could to drown out your dad. I couldn't do it. He was singing at the top of his lungs and not singing well.
No, he's a terrible singer, which is unfortunate because his father and my uncle both, they both got some bass in their voice, and they can carry a song for sure. But he's awful, and he loves he loves to sing. But to his credit, he loves life. So as bad as he is at singing, he enjoys it. He'll break into Bob Dylan quotes whenever he feels appropriate. Neil Young, same way. But he's a good man.
So, all right, so 15 seconds there. Now, is Randy allowed to be up-tempo here a little bit?
I think 3/4 speed.
3/4 speed.
Okay.
You want
you need to take off any. He's taking off his rings. Now he's taking off the watch.
Do you need a white towel? That's what's going to hurt somebody.
Yes, it is.
Do we have a white towel Dan can throw in?
Here, I have a white towel. I have a white T-shirt here, Randy.
Throw the damn towel.
All right.
Yeah.
My nickname is the Plaid Warrior.
The Plaid Warrior.
Okay, against the natural.
It's Randy the Natural against the Argyle Warrior.
Natural couture. You ready?
You ready?
Not at all.
Set.
Not at all.
Go.
He's just going to run.
That's 5 seconds.
Oh, my neck.
10 seconds.
Oh, my neck.
3,
Throw the towel in.
1, that's 15.
Paul, you survived.
Attaboy, Paul!
Yeah. You owned Randy Couture.
I don't think he's sweating or breathing heavy, though.
I don't think at any point he was worried.
That's the most polite MMA match.
He sort of laid you down gently.
He was smiling the whole time, too.
In all seriousness, he had his arm against my neck. And if your neck doesn't move and head can't move, nothing really else could move. I was frozen.
You go where your head goes, absolutely.
I couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah. Man, but you lasted 15 seconds with him.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Great job. Great job.
Kid.
Nice job. Nice job.
More phone calls coming up. Dan and the Danettes, Dan Patrick Show. It was 2 weeks ago we had Chris Mannix on, and I wanted to know who Chris thought might win all of this, the bubble championship. And here's Chris Mannix from Sports Illustrated.
Blazers, Sixers in the finals.
Well, yep. And then we had Chris Haynes, who was on yesterday from TBS. Charles Barkley said yesterday, if the Blazers face the Lakers, the Blazers will advance. They're all sampling Chris Mannix, who joins us now from the bubble. Now, were you serious that the Blazers and Sixers are going to play for the championship?
Let's just say I was. Let's just go with that.
So you were sort of serious about that, or that was wishful thinking?
No, sort of serious, because I'm convinced that something crazy is going to happen in this postseason. I don't believe it's going to be chalk. And if you're looking for like a 1999 Knicks story, it's Portland. I mean, they've got the two guards that could win a series by themselves. And I mean, they're getting Yusuf Nurkic and Zach Collins back. So if you're looking for kind of a Cinderella tale, the only one that fits the narrative is Portland.
76ers, though, you like the 76ers, and that would be a surprise as well. But why the Sixers?
I think the East is more wide open than people think. I mean, I've said this to you before. I believe the three-point shooting is going to be way down this year, and teams that rely heavily on three-point shooting are not going to be as effective as they were before the pandemic. And Milwaukee, Giannis is not a three-point shooter, but everybody else is, with that group. So with that over-reliance, I think they're a little bit more vulnerable. And I look at Philadelphia, and I love the decision Brett Brown made to move Ben Simmons to power forward. I mean, Shake Milton is not a household name, but he was playing extremely well with Simmons out before the pandemic hit. He was shooting 50% from three in the 16 games he started this season. You move Simmons to power forward, his weaknesses as a three-point shooter are taken away. He can still run the offense. That to me is a terrific post-pandemic move by Brett Brown. So I think they're in the mix.
How's the setup in the bubble?
You mean like outside this door? Because I don't know. I mean,
when's the last time you were outside that door?
Actually, outside the door, Sunday. I mean, I take it very seriously how they don't want us to leave the door. So I've been in the door frame, but I have not stepped outside the door.
When can you step outside?
I believe it's Sunday night or Monday morning, whenever the 7th test comes in. You've got to have 7 consecutive negative tests. I believe I've had 4 up until this point, with another one coming this afternoon. So I've just been behind this door, and it's really, I said this to somebody the other day, it looks like my college dorm. I mean, it's like 2 unmade beds, bottled water on the floor, food packages everywhere, no girls. Like, that's part of the college dorm experience. So here's what it is.
You're fitting right in there. I like it. I like it. What's your biggest question mark basketball wise once they start playing at the end of the month?
I mean, it always comes back to the Lakers, because the Lakers, I'm very curious to see just how big an impact the Bradley Rondo losses are, because you talk to some coaches and they'll say it's devastating. Avery Bradley, great on-ball defender. Rondo not having a great year, but Rondo's that one guy in the backcourt that LeBron just seems to trust. Like, he just always wants Rondo on the floor because, you know, he's got that playoff experience and the ball handling. And look, playoff Rondo is a real thing. There are other coaches that are like, come on, the Lakers are LeBron and Anthony Davis. Everybody else is just kind of, you know, a supporting character. Plug a player in there, they're going to be just fine. I'm very interested to see, you know, how big an impact those 2 losses have, especially in the first round of the playoffs, and especially if that first round opponent is Portland. I mean, I think Rondo beats the 6 to 8 week time frame to come back. He is, I don't think I've ever covered a player that plays through injury and pain as often as Rajon Rondo. But if he misses that first round, I think a Portland matchup could be just really compelling.
We're talking to Chris Mannix, the senior NBA writer from Sports Illustrated. The snitch line policy. Can you use that? Would players or team officials use it as for a competitive advantage?
Yeah, most of the ones I've talked to have just kind of joked about it and said, you know, yeah, I'm standing up in my hotel room with binoculars looking down to see if somebody is stepping outside the quarantine area. There have been, you know, reports. I mean, Dwight Howard came out and said somebody reported him for not wearing his mask on campus. But I don't see it being employed strategically. I don't think that when the playoffs start, you're going to have, you know, Terry Stotts of the Blazers calling in on Anthony Davis, you know, report or something along those lines. I think it's more about, you know, just making sure these players are aware that these rules are in place. I mean, we've already seen 2 guys get dinged pretty significantly because of breaking quarantine. And the mask wearing, I've been told anyway, is the most common call to that snitch line.
But so Dwight Howard, was he at the pool? Was that when he was poolside with the DJ and he was the only guy there? Did the DJ snitch? Do they have a recording? Like, everything gets made public. Like 911 calls eventually come out. I'm wondering if somebody eventually gets the voice recordings of the snitch hotline.
That's a great question, and I'll actually ask it. I haven't asked that question because they go to great lengths to make sure you know it's an anonymous line. So I would imagine there are not recordings, but man, if there ever were and those ever got out,
I know.
that would be great.
But
great
it'd be great if Greg Popovich was disguising his voice, where he you know, says, "Hey, I'm hearing that Dame Lillard is not wearing his mask."
I mean, Doc Rivers kind of joked about it. He said he's calling everybody in. He's just going to keep snitching on every guy out there and see. But more often than not, Dan, like the quarantine stuff, the NBA takes seriously, right? Like if you step outside the boundaries, they're going to come down pretty hard on you because they've got to protect the integrity of the bubble. But the face mask stuff, unless you do it like 10 times, the NBA is not going to sit you down. Like, they're just going to keep calling you and warning you and reminding you that you have to wear your mask.
We brought this up first hour. Let's take LeBron out of the equation. Who's the face of the NBA?
I mean, I'd probably say it's Giannis, but Giannis certainly doesn't have the charisma or that face of the NBA feeling. I mean, in fact, like if you want to look at the next face of the NBA, and let's say for argument's sake, LeBron retired tomorrow, you might be kind of left in that void that was there when Jordan retired in the late 2000s. You remember, I mean, that was when Kobe was still pretty young. Tim Duncan was kind of the face of the league, but he wasn't face of the league, maybe material. Allen Iverson was there, but he didn't really embrace that role. I mean, there were 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years before Kobe Bryant kind of ascended into that role. I think we might have to wait that long for somebody to do it. I mean, maybe it's Zion, but Zion certainly isn't there yet. So I don't know who that guy would be at this point. You assume it's Giannis because of the MVP, the possible MVP he's going to win again, but he's not a clear-cut name like it is LeBron.
When Zion comes back, what is the process that he has to go through?
I mean, it's a good question because nobody's really being specific with their answers when I ask this. Now, there are protocols in place, right, for this type of situation. If you have a medical emergency or an excused absence, which the Pelicans have indicated that's what this is, you come back and you undergo a 4-day quarantine. But when I ask the NBA what Zion's return protocols are, they're not giving me a direct answer. The thing I keep hearing is that the NBA needs to learn more about the specific circumstances about why Zion had to leave, which tells me that, maybe they're not fully in the loop about, why Zion decided to leave. So it's a minimum of 4, but it conceivably could be 7 to 10, depending on how the NBA rules on it. What I think is really interesting, Dan, is that, I mean, early in the season, TNT and ESPN loaded up on Pelicans games.
Yeah.
And then Zion was out, and you're like billing Drew Holiday versus LeBron James. They did it again, with this return. So, like, if Zion winds up missing, like the first week of the season, it's Brandon Ingram and the Pelicans versus whoever. I just think it's too bad, but it's kind of funny for those networks.
Ethan, who does a great job with our stats, sent me some numbers that back up your Shake Milton comment. Last 7 games before the NBA shut down, just under 20 points, 58% shooting, 60% from three-point range as well. So once again, Ethan doing a great job in supplying us with that stat. On what's wrong, McLovin?
First of all, I'm the Shake Milton guy. I'm like the world's biggest Shake Milton fan.
But
and now you're going to Ethan.
Ethan came to me. You could have said, "Hey, by the way, Dan, Mannix just mentioned Shake Milton. I'm a big Shake Milton fan. Here's some stats." But you didn't.
By the way, Mannix gave us a stat. Why did Ethan? Mannix
he didn't give us exactly what Ethan did. I went a little. Ethan is our stats guy. Remember when McLovin used to be our stats guy, Mannix?
Yeah, Perloff couldn't pick Shake Milton out of a lineup, so let's establish that.
Have you seen the Steph Marbury documentary? I think it's on Netflix.
Yeah, no, I mean I've seen the clips for it, but it's probably on the to-do list over the last 3 days in this bubble.
Yeah, but you have nothing to do. You're in the bubble. You should be watching some of these things. You're going to take a nap after you do this interview.
That's not necessarily true. I mean, I may take a nap today, but I've done some stuff. I've been relatively busy.
The Marbury thing is interesting because at the time, remember, Felipe Lopez was the big New York City legend. And then Marbury gets drafted by Milwaukee, gets traded to Minnesota for the rights to Ray Allen in a first-round draft pick. And if you look back, what could have been with Marbury and Garnett, and they were good friends, and he wanted to play with Kevin Garnett, and it just never materialized. Like, I look at Marbury as what could have been, not what was, but what could have been.
One of the great pairings that you just never know. And you look at the way Kevin Garnett's career went in the Western Conference. I mean, a player of that kind of talent only making it to one Western Conference Finals. I mean, that would not have been the case if Stephon Marbury was there. As kind of bonkers as Marbury went when he was traded to New Jersey and then Phoenix, then that disastrous end in New York. I mean, he was a different type of player in Minnesota. Like, they were on the rise out there. I think there's no doubt they would have at least made it to the finals during that era. And I don't know if Steph, I have to see the documentary. I'm not sure if he ever really regrets it or says he regrets it, but that's one of the great what ifs. If those two guys never stayed together, would they have been able to put together the kind of, successful pairing that we saw so many times over.
But if you look at trades the Bucs have made, so the Bucs get Ray Allen, they traded away Kareem, they traded away Dirk Nowitzki's rights for tractor trailer. Like the Bucs have been involved in some pretty historical moves down through history here.
Yeah, that tractor trailer trade, maybe
that
not so
was
good.
Not
But maybe
good.
I mean this sort of underscores why. And, history probably doesn't have anything to do with it. But like, even if Giannis, even if they bow out in like the second round of these playoffs, they're not trading Giannis this offseason. Like unless he tells them flat out, no, I'm not coming back there, they're not dealing this guy, because there's just simply no way you can get even close to measurable value in return. They're rolling the dice on Giannis being a part of this team long term.
But you don't think there could be a situation like Anthony Davis in New Orleans?
No. I mean, I guess anything's possible. I don't foresee that. I mean, there were, in the years prior to Anthony Davis making that trade demand, there were plenty of rumblings about dissatisfaction with what happened there. They made the coaching change. Davis was close to Monty Williams. That year they made the playoffs. So there was a build up to that. Up until this point, there's been nothing but happiness, as far as I've been told, with what Giannis feels about what they've done with that organization. They've supplied him with an elite coach. They've supplied him with the kind of roster that you succeed with a player of that caliber. So it would be a pretty significant 180 in my mind for Giannis to turn around and say, you know what, I'm done here. It's time to move on.
But do you think that Jason Kidd can actually sell to potential ownership of a team, hey, if you hire me as a coach, I can bring the Greek Freak? Do you think that that's part of the marketing strategy of Jason Kidd to become a head coach again?
I like Jason Kidd, if it is, and if you're an owner, I've got, something to sell you in Brooklyn. Like that's not going to happen. He's not that influential in Giannis's life that Giannis would make a career-defining decision based on, going back to play for a coach that he spent some decent years with.
Good luck there. We're praying for you.
I mean, I don't, again, Dan, I don't mind the solitude. It's the food that's a problem for me. That's becoming troubling.
So beer and pizza?
I mean, yeah, I'm the world's pickiest eater. I don't eat cheese on anything. I don't want mayo on anything. And if somebody puts either one of those things on something, I won't eat it overall. So like this morning, I picked out the bacon from the meal. I took the fruit cup and I'm done. That might be my only meal of the day. Solitude's fine. I mean, you know me, I don't really like people anyway. So if you just got me like a pizza delivery, I'd be cool here for weeks.
And vice versa, by the way, about you not liking people. I
appreciate that.
Yeah, let you know. All right. Good luck.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. That's Chris Mannix. He's a senior NBA writer, Sports Illustrated. I ran out of time. I was going to ask him some boxing stuff. Oscar De La Hoya is still looking to fight somebody. I got Mike Tyson wanting to fight a shark. What the hell is going on with boxing here? Do you understand this whole Mike Tyson fighting a shark? McLevin, do you understand exactly what's going on during Shark Week with Mike Tyson?
I don't, but I heard a lot of people handicapping that fight yesterday.
Yeah, Paulie.
Don't you think that Tyson and Holyfield missed their window when there was nothing going on about 2 months ago? Remember there's a lot of rumblings that they were going to do a quick fight?
Yeah.
They would have made a couple bucks.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see Tyson in the ring again.
But that window's gone now starting next week.
I would think so. But he's fighting a shark.
You gotta assume it's virtual or robotic or something, right?
I would. I don't want to watch a virtual fight with a shark. And really, Tyson's in your level of expertise in that area. Like you're the shark guy.
It's Shark Week is coming up. Big week for me.
Yeah, it is. Yes, Tom.
But can't we leave the sharks alone with the athletes? The Michael Phelps thing was a total disaster, racing a shark. Now we're going to fight a shark.
Yeah.
Why do we need to get a shark involved in our athletic endeavors all of a sudden?
We'll take a break. Thank you, Todd. And we'll come back after this on The Dan Patrick Show. Now, when we were walking outside that day after we had our town hall at ESPN, did you have any idea? Because you were with Bob Lee, and did you have any idea that I was doing SportsCenter that night?
No, and you never told me, as usual. You're witness protection program. No, I didn't know about it till I think the next morning. Like, they did what?
I was under orders that I wasn't allowed to tell anybody.
Well, I tell you what, you're coachable. It took 40 years. You're coachable.
Well, didn't you have a string where you did at least one SportsCenter?
I did. I was trying to catch DiMaggio, but I came up short. I did. I always, even long after I did them as a regular basis or even semi-regular, once we got baseball and you and Keith were in the 90s, I mean, I wasn't on every night like I was in the 80s, which was forever. But, I tried to come back in May and do one or two just to do it and try to pick a good weekend. The players' golf was usually one of the weekends, in May, and it was good. It was good to go do it. And then you've talked about it. How did you feel looking back at it now? I'm sure you're glad I think you're glad you did it. Right? I think so.
I wasn't glad that I agreed to it, and then I'm glad that I did it, because you know how this is, Chris, that the older you get, the better you were. And, our legacy or legend or whatever you want to call it, we weren't that good. We were there at the right time, and we had something that, we made something interesting and different. But then to go back, and I just worry that people go, I don't get it. What's the big deal about these guys? That was what I was worried about. It was just, it was nice, though, to kind of put a period at the end of my SportsCenter career and go back, do one more show with Keith and have a little bit of fun. And, it's like you're back on primetime, with Tommy.
Well, I mean, not to get to me here on that yet, although with sitting with Tommy is just, I'm beaming every Sunday night, is you were that good, you guys. You were every night, and people, I don't want to use the word counted on, because none of us are counted on, but if they're tuning in, give me some stuff, entertain me a little bit, tell me what's going on. I mean, you were counted on in that way. So, and look, and people don't get it. If I worried about quoting songs from my era, well, they might not get it. What am I going to quote now if you really want to go there? So, look, you brought smiles to a lot of people's faces, and you did it again. And maybe that's what we're doing with primetime, although that's a football vehicle on Sunday nights and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all day and all night on ESPN Plus, I still believe, and you probably do too, that even though you can, what happened in the Tampa-Atlanta game? Let me get it on my phone. Well, they're the three plays. I still feel that people want a meal every now and then. And in pro football, I believe that's true. And so for 45 minutes, we're providing a meal, if you will, the full meal of the day. And I don't think those times have come and gone. Do you, Dan?
No, I think what you're finding is there's a group of people in a large group that grew up with us, and they're probably in their 50s or 60s. But then there's also a younger generation that is kind of seeing or remembering or being told about, and then they reminisce. It feels like anything that's old becomes new again, if that makes sense. So, I mean, look, we were lucky because back then you tuned into SportsCenter because you didn't know the end result. You might have known the score, but you didn't see the highlights anywhere. So we had that audience that came into us, and we were coming off a Big East game, or it'd be a football game or a baseball game on Sunday night, and we had that great luxury. But when you have that audience, this is what I tell students who are in my sportscasting school. If you get the audience, keep the audience. Like that you can get them. How long do you keep them really tells them and yourself how good you are at what you're doing. And we were able to keep those people for a prolonged period of time. Just saw this from Bob Nightingale, USA Today baseball reporter. The Nationals have worked out protocol issues with the government. Players who've been exposed to COVID-19 but test negative and cleared to return must quarantine in their residence for 14 days when not at the ballpark, so they can still play providing they follow the baseball protocols. Yeah, last I read, the Yankees Nationals, their opening season series was in jeopardy because of the Nationals not being able to play at their home ballpark. But looks like there's some movement there, according to Bob Nightingale from USA Today. Alex Rodriguez and J-Lo are they engaged? Is that his fiance or is that a girlfriend? Not.
So why are you looking at me? Paulie's like, yeah, I don't know.
Feels like that's a fiance, I think, with J-Lo.
They're definitely partners.
They've taken the next step there. But Alex Rodriguez came out and said that he didn't want to have a salary cap. Or he wants to have a salary cap. If he becomes owner of the Mets, then he wants to have a salary cap. And I'm guessing, knowing Alex Rodriguez, this has some transparency that is basically him saying to all these other owners, hey, you want to take my offer because I'm with you here. I'm not a former player. I'm going to be pro-ownership here. We're going to have a salary cap in Major League Baseball. Even though I made a lot of money as a baseball player, we didn't have a salary cap. I had artificially inflated stats, but now we're going to have a salary cap. So please approve me and my fiance, J-Lo, to be the new owners of the New York Mets. Yes, Seton?
I have them as engaged during a romantic beach getaway sometime March 2019.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, Paulie?
Dan, if there's one wish I could have for the history of the show, I wish you could have been there when A-Rod and J-Lo's entourage steamrolled McLovin and I. More McLovin than I, because I was standing with my back against this table. McLovin was 2 feet away from me.
But do you know that this has scarred McLovin?
Yes.
So if I bring up Alex Rodriguez...
I've never seen him this upset.
You don't like Alex Rodriguez for one reason.
No. I don't think...
Are you sure?
I've disliked him a long time. He had a good series against the Phillies in 2009. I've always found him the most hypocritical of the hypocrites because he got nailed, said he was clean, and then got nailed again.
Yeah, see, that's where if you get busted once, maybe it's accidental, maybe you took something you didn't know. The second time, that's when you're out of baseball. But, hey, baseball has their own rules and whatever. But the Super Bowl party, McLovin got bumped into by A-Rod's security. So A-Rod doesn't even know his security people bumped into you.
No. He was looking down. He was with his son. But the thing is, the security guard wasn't super intimidating either. He was an older gentleman who I might have had a fair chance against.
Oh. Except that he smashed you out of the way to the point that
I
you're
wasn't
upset with
looking.
it 4 years later.
I was having one of my small talk media sessions. He pushed me in the lower back. Honestly, I was like, wow, I could have had a free swing at this guy. Because I'm telling you, he was not like, it wasn't like an intimidating bodyguard type. It was just some jerky guy.
But did you drop F-bombs?
I guess him. No, they moved on way too fast. Yes, to nowhere.
He did a big WTF with the arms out, like "Let's go."
But they were moving at like some sort of presidential pace. It was crazy. Like they knew what they were doing. But yeah, that's weird because you never would have thought that A-Rod had jerks around him like that.
Yeah, don't figure.
But he actually seems fairly nice in the media. Is that sort of like
I don't know him.
You don't know him, yeah.
I mean, I saw him at the Emmy Awards a couple of years ago, and that was uncomfortable. I mean, we've had an uncomfortable relationship since he went to the Rangers. When he was with Seattle, I had a very comfortable relationship with him. But when he got to the Rangers, and I did the interview with him when he was bad-mouthing Derek Jeter and his contract, and then it went south from there. And then, of course, we're up for the Sports Emmy, and he's the one announcing it, and we still think that he read off the wrong show just so I wouldn't win the Sports Emmy. Sort of just kidding, A-Rod. Bring on that salary cap. 1 more hour to go. Only 1 more hour to go? You got a favorite Eli story? Because like off field or anything? Because it doesn't sound like people got a lot of Eli stories with his personality.
There's lots of great stories about Eli. Some of them you can't always tell. You could tell over a couple beers. You can't do it where it's going to be regurgitated and come back to haunt anybody.
Can he pound beers?
Oh yeah, he can make them disappear with the best of them. So here's one. Eli, look, he's always taken care of guys. He's always just kind of been pure class. He'd always find a way to have some cold beverages for his horses. After every game, no doubt. But
you guys were the horses.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So he bought beers for his line.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's some good stories. I think one of my favorites is probably in 2007. There's 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. So we win the NFC Championship game. We come back from Green Bay. We've got that first week where you kind of put the game plan in. Everybody's excited. You're trying to figure out logistics, travel, tickets, all this stuff. So, that week is a little bit of a blur, but you're kind of loose too because there's no game. And people are having fun and doing all that. So we had a good week. But then the next week, all right, and now it's game prep time. So we get ready to leave our facility, and we're going to fly to Arizona to get ready. And I think it was a Monday, and we're flying out. Well, we get done with practice. We come in, everybody showers, gets cleaned up. We had meetings right after practice. So guys came in, and some guys went right into the meeting room and didn't shower yet. They were going to shower afterwards. Well, while we're in the meeting rooms, Eli had strategically had the equipment guys buy dress shoes in all of his offensive linemen sizes. And he had them spray painted bright purple and bright pink. And while we were in meetings, he had them go around and take all of our dress shoes out of our lockers and put these painted dress shoes in so that we would have to wear a suit on the plane when you travel. That was Tom Coughlin's rule. Attach significance to game day. So when we came to our lockers and started getting dressed and got your suit on, you pulled your shoes out of your shoe bag, and they were bright purple, bright pink. And everybody's looking around like, what the heck's going on here? This was his master plan to get us to have to walk onto the team plane dressed like clowns in these bright shoes. Luckily for me, I lived 5 minutes from the facility. I texted my wife, who was my fiance at the time. I said, you got to bring me an extra pair of dress shoes. Eli stole our shoes. I'm not dressing like Bozo the Clown on the plane. I'm never going to live it down. So she bailed me out, brought me an extra pair of shoes. But Richie Stoibert wears size 16, and he looked like Bozo the Clown. He had to walk by John Mara on the plane, and John just looked down and just cracked up laughing. And then as you got to your seat, in a shoe bag was your original dress shoes. So that so just, as classy as he always has been. It's a great joke, but hey, you know what? Here's your real shoes for after the prank is over with.
Buckle up, boys. Time to go to work.
Dan Patrick. Welcome to the Dan Patrick Show, bringing you inside the bubble.
Chris Haynes, who is the favorite?
I still have the Lakers clip, but the Portland Trailblazers, DP, if they sneak in, I think they can be a tough out. And if they happen to get past the Lakers, I can see them going the distance.
Well, we had Chris Mannix on.
Blazers, Sixers in the finals.
I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, Ethan's sending me some stats here, and I haven't even asked for them yet.
Are you sitting around at night, like glowing, looking at your phone? Is your wife like, who are you texting with?
Yeah, late night texting with Ethan, the stats guy.
Like the State Farm commercial?
Who are you talking to?
Ethan.
Yeah. What are you wearing?
Khakis. Broadcasting from the Mercedes Man Cave.
I would like to be drunk with stats.
This is Dan Patrick.
Final hour on this Friday, Dan and the Danettes. Dan Patrick Show will lighten the mood a little bit later on. He played Kevin on The Office. Brian Baumgartner will join us. Got a podcast, The Oral History of The Office, and we will ask the tough questions, such as, did Jim wear a hairpiece during one of the seasons of The Office? At least sources close to me say that is true. Washington Redskins owner Daniel Snyder provided no statement, declined several interview requests from the Washington Post in connection with the story of 15 former female employees who alleged that they were the victims of sexual harassment while working for the team that Snyder owns. Instead, all the comments have come from head coach Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera just got there. He should not be at the forefront, the voice of the Washington Redskins. He's been there less than 6 months. He coaches a football team and will have a hard time doing just that. He doesn't run human resources here. I don't know if Daniel Snyder says anything. The owners will meet virtually today to discuss rules for training camp, and I guess there's a chance that the issue will be addressed in that session. Well, I'd love to be able to be a fly on the wall when the commissioner brings it up. How do you bring it up? You can't bring it up to the owners. I think you have to bring that up privately with Daniel Snyder. And I'm going to guess that you have radio silence through the weekend with the NFL and the owner of the Washington Redskins. Yeah, McLevin.
The NFL also has this big thing going on. I mean, how are they going to settle with the NFLPA in 2 days? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, that's another thing that has been lost on a lot of people. We assume the NFL will play football. They're debating right now if there's any preseason games. The players don't want any preseason games, and they want testing every single day. We haven't even figured that out yet, and they've had months to figure this out, and they still have some time here. But the rookies are showing up on Monday, and you don't have safety precautions put in place with all of these teams. And now you have some of these star players basically saying, wait a minute, what are we doing here? All of these weeks we kept saying, hey, NFL's got time. College football, they got the benefit of time. They don't have time on their side anymore. It's here. It's here for baseball. It's here for basketball. And football is just starting with their rookie camp. And then college football, you're trying to get players to be able to practice together. Can you do that? I have serious doubts about it. But, we've seen progress. But the question is, are people going to abide by the rules so you have those safety precautions put in place and you have people willing to abide by them? That's really the key here, if you're going to have it. And I have serious doubts that college football and pro football start on time. Baseball, maybe they figured it out. NBA has done the best because they have the opportunity to be able to have everybody in one place and you could monitor them. And you have far less people involved in this. With college football, just do the numbers of, let's say a team has 90 players on the roster. You can have walk-ons. Maybe you have a little bit more than that. All the people involved in the football team. So let's say you have 150 people with each school. And just do the numbers of the Power 5 conferences. Got thousands and thousands of tests that have to be available. And then if you test positive, they're saying you're going to miss 2 weeks of action. So you can miss 2 weeks of the regular season. The odds are not in their favor. The math is not in their favor. And following safety protocol, not in their favor. And you don't have time on your side any longer. 877-3DP Show. Email address dp@danpatrick.com. Tiger Woods back yesterday in Columbus at Jack Nicklaus's tournament, the Memorial. And the last time we saw him was Tiger, Phil Mickelson, Tom Brady, and Peyton Manning in that challenge. And at the time when I was watching Tiger, everybody was watching Tom Brady, hit it right and left and made a mess of it. Manning was sneaky good. Phil tried to give a tutorial with every shot he was taking. Tiger just hit shots. Had a little bit of commentary, but I was noticing, focused, fixated on Tiger, his ability to hit the shot that he wanted to hit. And it was very repetitious. It felt like he was in a good rhythm there, but that's the last time we saw him play. Now, you're out there with Bryson DeChambeau, who has become the face of the tour, and he's out driving everybody, just the way Tiger did a decade ago, or 2 decades ago. But Tiger was winning. DeChambeau is hitting the ball 400 yards. And golf's unpredictable. We know that. And I don't know if Tiger or DeChambeau will be there on Sunday, but just having Tiger in the tournament makes it different, special. And maybe it's a preview of the major tournaments that we hope to have the rest of this year. But Tiger yesterday, 1 under par. That's fine. Just get out there, try to get that rhythm back. But I do want to see Tiger and DeChambeau together, because you had Tiger with Brooks Koepka and Rory McIlroy yesterday. But Tiger, if he could get paired with Bryson DeChambeau, that would be fun. Because when they played a practice round, I'm told that DeChambeau, when he hit not a great drive, was 15 yards past Tiger. When he hit a great drive, he was 50 yards past Tiger Woods. And it's not like Tiger's, hitting it on the senior tour here. Like, he can still move it out there a little bit, but it'd be fun to see. But Bryson DeChambeau, he's turning these golf courses upside down, but only from the standpoint of how far he hits it. I want to see if he scores, because if he does that, then you're going to really get people's attention. But if he continues to hit it 350, 400 yards, and he's, 2 under par, okay. But if he ever figures out how to chip and how to putt, then all of a sudden that's going to change the game. He'll change the game. He'll change the golf ball in the game of golf, because they're going to have to get to that point. Something Jack Nicklaus has been saying for 43 years. Yeah, remember when they Tiger-proofed Augusta years ago, and Charles Barkley came on the show and said that it was wrong. You can't be doing that to Tiger. And I said, Charles, do you know they did that to Jack Nicklaus in the early 60s? And he didn't know it, because we assumed that, hey, golf started when Tiger Woods started playing. It didn't work when they did that to Jack. They Tiger-proofed Augusta because Jack hit it farther than everybody else. And Jack has been saying, you got to change the golf ball. If you change the golf ball, and I truly believe, and I have no sources with the Masters, I truly believe the Masters might lead the charge, that they come up with their Masters golf ball, and you have to abide by our specs. If it's Nike, if it's going to be Callaway, if it's TaylorMade, it's Titleist, these are the specs we want for that golf ball. Because having played Augusta, there are certain holes that can't be lengthened. And this is what we keep doing. I remember playing a golf course that'd be 7,000 yards. Now they'll do 7,500 yards and not even think about it, because the technology in the golf ball, they just make it longer. And I never understood that. If I really wanted to penalize Tiger Woods, I'm not going to make it longer, but I'm certainly going to make it tighter. And any of these long hitters, that's when you really want to see. I want more golfers involved that are actually golfers, not somebody just who hits bombs. I love watching it, but this is the problem we have with baseball. Baseball is about hitting bombs. It's not about anything else. It's hitting bombs. Golf has become about hitting bombs. Tennis is about hitting bombs. And that's the problem I have with these sports. There's no other movement. They're not volleying that much. In golf, are you good around the greens? How many people can, be involved in these tournaments? Be competitive when it's all about distance. Baseball, it's all about hitting home runs. Nobody cares if you bat, 325 and you hit, 19 home runs. That's pedestrian. We want you hitting 275 and hitting 42 home runs. Strike out 180 times. Who cares? You want movement in sports. Tennis doesn't have it. Golf is just get up there and swing hard. And I would still like to see the shot making come back. And baseball has no movement either, if you watch a game. It's pretty stationary. Yeah, Paul.
Bryson DeChambeau, I guess he put on about 20 pounds over the past
maybe more
year. He's listed at 6'1", 240.
Yeah.
You see a lot of muscular guys who can't hit a golf ball. Is muscularity important to distance while hitting a golf ball? I mean, traditional weightlifter muscles.
Well, look at Brooks Koepka. He's a weightlifter. Dustin Johnson's an athlete. Dustin Johnson is a pure athlete out there. DeChambeau put on like 30 pounds, I guess, and he works out, so it's muscle. Like there are guys who are big. John Daly's big, but he's not muscular. It's weird. You can be 5'8" and 150 pounds and hit it. Justin Thomas is not big at all. He's small. So golf is about lag. It's about everything coming together at the right time and having the science down. Bryson DeChambeau basically, treated this like it's rocket science. He's got a driver. Normally your driver is like 9 or 9.5 or 10. His is, I think, 5.5. And his clubs are all the same size. So everything about this is science. But if you're putting on 40 pounds in 2 years, and you watch DeChambeau, when he swings as hard as he can possibly. Like, you think his arm's going to fall off one day. Or a back injury here. Because that was always the concern about Tiger is he would post on his left leg. And I kept thinking, at some point, that knee cannot take that much torque. And it proved to be true, his back and his knee. It's just, that's why when you see guys who have, like Louis Oosthuizen has the most effortless swing, Ernie Els, like those guys can play golf for the rest of their lives. Although Ernie's had some health issues. Freddie Couples, I think the heaviest thing he lifted was a beer. And Freddie has a wonderful swing, but he has back issues as well. But I remember Tiger back in the early 90s, and I said, I don't know if that swing can hold up. Just, the physical, like the laws of gravity or geometry, trigonometry, whatever it is, where all the angles there and the force, the sheer force. But when you're hit, ball speed is over 200 miles an hour. We can get on the simulator here, and I can tell you guys swing as hard as you possibly can, and you won't come anywhere near 200 miles an hour on a golf ball. Yeah, Paulie.
By the way, a couple of years ago, I was watching like the PGA channel or whatever, and I saw a post-match interview with Bryson DeChambeau. I'm like, wait a second, he's American? I assumed he was French with that name. DeChambeau? I just assuming, never heard the guy interviewed before.
He drinks like, 6 shakes, protein shakes a day. It's the calorie intake is incredible. But I do think golf will have to look at this at some point as a business and say, and they may say, look, we love that people are tuning in to watch Bryson DeChambeau. I mean, they may. Because I do. I'm watching Bryson DeChambeau to see how far he can hit it. Everybody else I'm watching to see how they play the course. I'm just watching him to see how he hits it. And as we like to say, he leaves nothing in the bag. He is going after it there. All right. So I mentioned we'll have Kevin from the office joining us coming up. A couple of phone calls in here. Let me see. How about Nate in New York? Hey, Nate, what do you have for me today?
DP, third time, long time. How we doing?
Good, sir. What's on your mind?
You were talking about the NFL and how they wanted to get rid of all the preseason games, and I was wondering if they were going to address the issue on the amount of injuries being so astronomical if they actually do go away from having no preseason games, and all the full-time players would be in full-time right off the bat.
Well, there are players who need it the last couple of games. The first couple of games, thanks for the phone call, Nate, you need your free agents and your rookies to get ready. you do need a couple of preseason games. And then your regular players, star players, usually need one tune-up. There is a use for preseason games. The problem is the owners would charge you the same amount of money, or if you were doing season tickets, to get season tickets, you had to sign up for the preseason as well. I didn't appreciate the price gouging there, but I do understand that you do need some preseason games, or at least, scrimmages with other teams. That's what I had said all along. If you have scrimmages there, can you still accomplish what you want to? And I've been told by numerous people, you still want them to run out in front of a crowd, in front, with the lights on you, and it feels like you're on stage. It's bigger because you got to get ready for that moment. But I can't see preseason games this year. Can't. We got 55 days until Texans-Chiefs Thursday night. Now, that sounds like a lot of time, but understand it's not, because the players are asking, have we thought about these things? And the rookies show up on Monday. Now the players realize they don't have time on their side. And now this is where the Players Association is kind of hitting back at the owners to say, you guys got all of this ready to go in place? And they don't. James in Virginia is joining us on the program. Hi, James. Thanks for holding. What do you have?
Good morning, brother. Happy Friday. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
It's a lot going on today, man. It's a whole lot. I got to say, man, robes over towels. Robes over towels. And I got to say, it sounds like there's a stat-off coming on between McLovin and Ethan, man. Got to have a stat-off, Sports Jeopardy style, for sure.
Okay.
And then to the elephant in the room, man, I'm burgundy and gold through and through, man. But it's very disheartening this morning, man. Waking up this morning representing the burgundy and gold, man. I was telling your producers, man, it's maybe not on the field or with football, but Mr. Snyder has a very prominent voice in in Washington's organization. And it's very surprising that Mr. Snyder, would allow things to go on in his organization when his wife is so prevalent inside the building, man. I will say, man, going forward, I am happy that Ron Rivera is there and that he provides a stability, that strong force, of change, And I want to say, man, thank you to those that had the fortitude to step up and to speak out and to force change, man. I mean, you got to have people that are willing to put themselves on the line. So thank you, man. And hopefully going forward, we see something better. And I'll leave you with this lastly, man. I think given all the circumstance, the perfect name for the team going forward is the Phoenix, man. It's a lot of fire and a lot of ash, man. And it's time to rise above it and start anew, man. I hope y'all have a great weekend, man. And thank you for taking my call.
Thank you, James. Always good to hear from you. Always hear from James when the topic is the Washington Redskins. Ron Rivera should not be the person who is leading the charge of being the voice of change with the Washington Redskins. This isn't an on-the-field violation. This isn't a critique of the play of the team. He hasn't been there 6 months. He's the guy who says, hey, this isn't going to happen. We're not going to tolerate this. This is a workplace violation. And Daniel Snyder is the one who should be saying something here. And silence speaks volumes here. But when I see that Ron Rivera is speaking out, I acknowledge that. I'm glad he is. But this has nothing to do with Ron Rivera. As they move forward, okay. But it still comes back to an owner who hired these people. He's the one that should be saying something, not Ron Rivera. It's not fair to put him in this situation. Yes, Ed.
Would it be weird to just have, say, New York play Boston and Los Angeles play San Diego? And why do the teams, I guess this is sort of a more abstract discussion or something off on a little bit of a side tangent, but why do we need nicknames like that or mascots? Or why do you need the Yankees versus the Red Sox when you could just have New York versus Boston?
But then you have New York Jets, and then you have New York Giants, and then you have the L.A. Chargers, and then the L.A. Rams. So
yeah.
How do you designate L.A. versus...
Like Manchester United versus Manchester City. Same place, just different teams.
Yeah, but one's Man United and one's Man City.
Yeah.
You don't have Los Angeles, where's the stadium located by the Airport.
Inglewood?
Well, they're both playing in Inglewood. Yeah, so they're even playing in the same. I think move the Chargers back to San Diego, move the Jets to Queens, and then we could do it that way. Yeah, but people love the nickname. They love the mascot. They love, it's the whole pomp and circumstance, stuff like that. Yes, Todd.
It would be weird for me. Like, I love the logo of the horse with the Broncos. So, I could definitely appreciate, rallying behind your team colors and that name, even though, to Seaton's point, it does seem a little ridiculous. Why do you have to call it something that could potentially offend somebody?
We'll take a break here. Brian Baumgartner played Kevin in The Office. Will join us. We'll try to lighten the mood a little bit here. And more phone calls. We'll try to squeeze those in. It's a Traeger Meat Friday. The Traeger's fired up. I'm being told carnitas. Is that right?
Carnitas tacos.
Carnitas tacos. All right. That sounds good. Anything sounds good today. All right. 20 after the hour. We're back after this on the Dan Patrick Show. Callaway has created their most advanced tour ball ever, and it's the ball that changed the ball, the Chrome Soft. They took it apart, completely changed everything again. Callaway knew that there was more performance out there, the Chrome Soft, and they wanted to make sure that they provided the best performing tour ball and made it even better. Callaway invested significantly in their U.S.-based golf facility, Chicopee, Mass. Paulie and Seaton took a ride up there last year and put on a display, from what I'm told. The new Chrome Soft delivers an unmatched combination of speed, consistency, spin, and control. It's a ball built for total performance. The new 2020 Chrome Soft and Chrome Soft X are available with alignment-enhancing triple track technology, which is what I use, a yellow golf ball, the Chrome Soft, and the triple track technology that helps me with my performance. The ball that changed the ball is changing everything. Get your new Chrome Soft or Chrome Soft X golf balls today at CallawayGolf.com. There you go. All right. Come on out. All right, here you go. All right, so now what's Landon going to do here?
Show us the difference between the yellow card. So this is a card. Okay, so you're dribbling. All right. You have a cup on?
Yeah.
Okay, so I go for the ball, but I accidentally hit you in the balls.
Okay.
You fall down. Can I say the balls?
Yeah. We go full speed.
Oh, we can?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, hold on.
I need the ball. I need the ball. I need the ball.
Your full speed is.
Come on, boss.
Yeah.
So we're half
Paulie was
speed
going
then.
full speed, Landon.
Yes. So I go for the ball and I trip you.
That was
That's
a
a yellow card.
Now, that's a yellow? What's red?
Yeah, that was a foul. So this is a red.
Oh.
Go ahead,
Paul, you got your
dribbling.
cup on?
Yeah.
Go ahead. That's a red card.
Oh, what a special moment.
Now, wait a minute. Can we
You just
reenact
kicked him in the shin.
a young 17-year-old Landon frustrated?
In Jamaica.
That's my second red
What about a
card.
goallie shot, 17
What
years?
about
like an
You're
elbow?
frustrated?
Yeah,
Like if we
elbow
were going
is-
for like a throwing
Or even if I have the ball and I'm dribbling and you come up behind me and I do this one to hold you
the
off.
net.
That can be
Okay, let me see
Any
you.
hand of the
Let me see you fake.
How's your knee, brother?
Let me see you fake an
Really good
injury
for
here.
workup.
Okay, I'm
So
dribbling.
Paulie is going to be
Don't touch
riding
me,
you a little
Lenny. Don't
bit.
touch
Right.
me. Don't touch me. Okay, go ahead.
Are you writhing in pain?
And then I got this one from the ref. Get up.
Do they,
Now the goalie red
do they
card.
laugh at you?
No, he just looked at me like,
Come on, guy.
Okay, so I'm the goalkeeper.
yeah.
When you were 17, and I did something to you.
Maybe a slow motion reenactment.
So this is the ball came. Here, give me the ball. The ball came like in here.
Uh-huh.
He caught it and I went.
I have a cup on.
You have a cup on? Okay.
Oh, okay.
I've never
He
seen
caught
somebody
it.
want to get
I
hit in the
know.
nuts more than It's really shocking.
That's not that bad.
That was deserving of a red card.
Because you didn't go under.
No, I went hard. If you expose your shoe like that,
And you got the
you're
cleats
gonna get
on?
a red card. Yeah.
Oh my God. What is
My only
wrong
one.
with you?
I learned though. I never got another one.
Wow.
One and done.
Right?
Thanks for coming.
Oh, hey.
I
good?
hope your knee's okay.
That's all right.
Hey,
Thank you very
Paulie,
much.
what if you went
Thanks for
in
coming
the
in.
back and shot
Always a
3.
pleasure, my
Like
friend.
1,
Be well.
2,
Thank you very
3,
much. Great to see you.
with Nick and Landon.
Okay.
And then we can use that for
You
the
okay with
thing.
this one?
Totally. Yeah.
Short segment here.
Yeah.
And 44, 56 ready. The Jolt loses some electricity. On this date in 1941, the 56-game hitting streak comes to an end.
Kenny
in
Keltner
Cleveland.
was the third baseman for the Indians who have made a couple of nice catches.
I believe so. It did
You
come
don't
to an
even
end.
know
No,
that.
it says it came
You
to
do not know.
It says it came to an end in Cleveland, so that
But
makes
it was
sense.
Kenny Keltner
I
as the
believe
third
you.
baseman. Okay.
Okay, the next one, Men of October don't square around.
Don't square around.
Men of October don't square around. Remember that situation.
On
this
Reggie
date,
Jackson acting like he got hit by a pitch.
On this date in 1978, Yankees manager Billy Martin and Reggie Jackson almost come to blows in the dugout after Reggie continues to try bunting Thurman Munson over to second after Billy Martin asked Reggie to bunt on the first pitch. It didn't work out. Then he wanted him to swing away, and Reggie kept continuing to bunt to piss off Billy Martin. Martin ended up having to suspend him for a period of time. Joe DiMaggio, Reggie Jackson, 56, 44. Neil in Connecticut, congratulations. Reggie.
Dan Patrick Show brought to you by Mercedes-AMG. Be prepared for whatever comes your way. It's the all-new GT four-door coupe. Because life is a race, visit your local dealership for a test drive today. If you missed any of our interviews this week or any week from the Mercedes-AMG Man Cave, go to danpatrick.com or the Dan Patrick Show app. Watch and listen from inside the Mercedes-AMG Man Cave, Mercedes-AMG driving performance. We caught up with Brian Baumgartner. He is the actor Kevin from The Office, host and executive producer of An Oral History of The Office podcast, and you can find that on Spotify. I started the interview by asking Brian, how are you, Brian?
I could not be prouder of myself. Okay, let me be very clear about this. You know, we just finished the American Century Championships up here in Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard.
I did hear. You didn't win.
30th place, though. Top half of the field with elite athletes all around me. I was very proud of myself.
Okay. Who did you play with?
Okay.
I played, well, the first day they like to put, let's just say, the jokers together. So I had Larry the Cable Guy and John O'Hurley from Seinfeld. But I made positive numbers every day. The second day I played with Adam Thielen.
Is he an Office fan?
Well, yeah, we're old friends. We've discussed this before. I met him in 2008 here. I am still in Lake Tahoe, beautiful Lake Tahoe. I met him at a blackjack table here in 2008. He was a fan of The Office, and I had no clue who he was. No, not one clue. This was right before he was the starter. He started in fall of 2008. And so we started talking. I mean, once he said his name, I was like, oh yeah, the Cal guy. Good luck behind Favre. And we became friends then. And yeah, we've been friends ever since. So it's always fun to come up here and be able to play with him.
Spotify and Brian Baumgartner have teamed up to create a new limited series podcast, An Oral History of The Office. So Brian, host, executive producer. Is there a story that's off limits that pertains to The Office for the podcast?
You mean that I won't tell you, or that we didn't tell in the podcast?
touchy to deal with. How about that? Is there a sensitive episode of The Office?
Yes. So I'll tell you two things. One is that I lived through this thing, and though my character on the show was not the most intelligent character on the show, I actually was paying attention throughout. And the business of television and entertainment is interesting to me. So I was paying attention. But listen, I sat down with all of the key assets for this thing. I have over 100 hours of recorded material. Like my drop the mic moment, or, saying is basically Steve Carell didn't talk about The Office, hasn't talked about The Office for more than 5 minutes since, he was off the show 9 years ago. And we sat down for 3.5 hours and just talked through everything. And I learned myself, because people are like, oh, The Office, everybody knows everything. I learned like big, huge, significant things as I was going through this podcast that I think people were too humble or too protective of other people to tell when it was going on.
Like what? Like what?
Well, I mean, Dan, I'm not going to give you all of my information, but I'll The Office. In 2008, there was a writer's strike, which I'm sure those of you who remember, it was 100 days. Everything was shut down. And The Office had a very significant role in that shutdown. There are stories around what happened there and key people that were involved in The Office taking care of our crew who was out of work for 100 days. Stories around that I had never, ever heard. And I think there's a lot of exploration for people who don't know early on. As Dan, I know the show was almost canceled for like the first 2 years. We were dead on arrival. Like it was not moving forward. And the bold choices, the brave choices that got people fired because they believed in the show, that enabled The Office to continue into seasons 3 through 9, basically. We go through in pretty intricate detail what happened there. And I think it will be interesting for people, particularly the young people now who have become such fans of the show, that think the show just always existed on Netflix, right? Like people don't realize, like a lot of the young viewers don't realize, like, what is NBC? Why? What is that?
But how close do you think? Was there a day where you thought, this is it, they're going to cancel?
100%. I was sitting, actually, name drop. I was sitting in a trailer, Steve Carell's trailer with Steve Carell and Rainn Wilson and myself, the three of us in there. We came back for this. We did 6 episodes in season 1, and we were given, the network didn't even tell people we were only given 6 episodes in season 2. Like they were like, oh no, they're coming back. And then they were like, yeah, you can do 6 and then goodbye. We filmed those in the summer. And then we finished before any of them started airing. And we were sitting in the trailer and Steve said, well, at least we got to do 12. At least we can be proud of doing 12. And we went away, and Angela Kinsey tells the story. She took her nameplate off of her trailer, like as a memento. She was like, we're never coming back. And then, one of the episodes of the podcast, we go through like, the episode in the podcast is called A Billion Things Have to Go Right. And every single thing in that second season went right. And at the end of the second season, we won the Emmy. And from there, it was full steam ahead.
It's an oral history of The Office podcast with your host and executive producer, Kevin from The Office, Brian Baumgartner. And you can see it, or listen to it, I should say, on Spotify. But I wonder if the writing changed when you weren't even sure if you were going to be brought back. Like, did it get a little bit more, hey, who cares? Let's take some risk. Did you ever feel that way? Like you guys started out of the gate with the diversity episode, which to me, like that's episode 2, Brian. You usually build up to diversity where you have a little bit of house credit to be able to do that.
That you could have worked with me on the podcast. Some of what you just said is the narration, like of what I say in the podcast. Like, because there are a lot of people who say, in retrospect, oh, The Office started slowly and it built. And I'm like, go look at episode 2 and what was happening. And that episode, Dan, I'll tell you that I remember sitting there in that conference room, which we were in like 14 hours a day that week, and saying like, man, if people give this show a chance, what we're talking about, people don't talk about this on network television. I mean, we're looking at race in a really frank way. But one of my favorite exchanges to me, which is like, this is so cheap, but like quintessential Office, is Michael Scott turning in Diversity Day and turning to Oscar and saying, in a real genuine way, what is less offensive to call you than Mexican? And Oscar saying, "What? There's nothing offensive about Mexican." Right. But like, what's something less offensive? And to me, that encapsulates it, right? Like, he's trying to do good. He's not misintentioned. And the response from everybody else who's in the room is like, oh, don't do that. So the message of the show is, you can't do that. You can't say that. But now we're not even allowed to make that joke.
Yeah.
That's how people are. Like, that's reality. And I think that one of the things that I've found through the show is, we were looking at and talking to Greg Daniels, who created it, and Ken Kwapis, who directed some of the early episodes. They were really looking for an ultra reality, right? And one of the things, this is meta and kind of deep for your listeners, Dan, I'm going to be honest with you about that, but
thank you, Brian.
But I'm a listener. See, that's the joke. That you think we need to make this universal, right? So we need to generalize things, right? Because the more general you make it, the more people can understand it. But I think what The Office did, and one of the things that has made it endure to today, is everything was ultra specific, like very specific. And that ultimately, my theory is, the more specific you get, actually, the more universal it becomes.
Did John Krasinski wear a wig any of the seasons? He did.
Yes, and this is a new spoiler thing that has come out recently that I always thought, well, didn't everybody know that? It looked ridiculous. He was in, he wore it, he did the movie with Clooney, Leatherheads.
Yeah.
When he did Leatherheads, and they had the short hair because it was a period piece. Don't ask me when exactly, I don't know. But, like it was, so they had short hair, and he had the like floppy do, and where they were like, oh, we can't let Jim not have his sexy floppy do. So they put a wig on him. But I thought it looked ridiculous.
Coming from a guy who looked ridiculous when you wore your hairpiece.
Yeah, I thought it was. I feel like I should bring it back, Dan.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I should bring it
and
back.
The Kleenex boxes on the feet.
I will tell you, though, the craziest thing is, well, I mean, you know this. I can't walk down the street and not have somebody yell chili at me. Like, that is just a thing. Right? Like, that one, it's like we did 200 and whatever episodes. That's
How
it.
do you not have a chili sponsor like Hormel or something?
Oh, you haven't heard? Dan, let me tell you a little something about Bush's Beans.
Oh.
Yeah, check it out.
You're Mr. Bush's Beans?
No, I think they have a dog.
They do have a dog.
Yeah, but there was I did a campaign with them right before the pandemic. We did kind of a spoof on it, and I posted it on Twitter, and I don't know, there's now like 30 million views of this. I mean, it just like went crazy.
Oh, hey, I saw is Billie Eilish on this?
I talked to Billie Eilish during the podcast. Okay,
explain how Billie Eilish ends up on the Office podcast.
Well, so my time frame is a little weird, but like right before you, I think, and me knew who she was, I got approached through my management that this woman, Billie Eilish, wanted to use my voice in one of her songs. She was a big Office fan. And there was a number of the cast that had been approached about this. And I was like, what? I don't know. And then I literally said, well, if Steve says yes, then fine. Like, whatever. Like, I don't know what this is. If you get Carell to say yes, then sure, I'll do it. And so, sure enough, like, I don't know, 1 week later, I'm listening to the radio and I'm like, Billie Eilish, who's Billie Eilish? Oh yeah, this is the person who's used my voice. So she blew up. One of her songs on her album is called My Strange Addiction. And her strange addiction is The Office. And throughout the song, she uses clips of a number of our voices in her song. She's so great. She's so smart. And yes, she loves the show. She has the show on all the time. And she talked to me about, what the show means to her and why she became such a big fan of the show and why she had to ultimately write a song and use our voices in it. It's crazy.
Congrats on it. I'm not surprised it's a hit. The Oral History of The Office it's on Spotify with Brian teaming up to create this limited series podcast. I wish you well with it and hope you're doing well. Hopefully we'll see you in person.
I would love that soon, Dan. Be well, be healthy, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, thanks.
The Oral History of The Office podcast available on Spotify. Brian Baumgartner, he played Kevin on The Office. Back with your phone calls, close up shop, what we learned, what's in store next Monday. All of that coming up next year on The Dan Patrick Show.
Yesterday.
I love the
and
the Adidas.
You had mentioned the streaking.
Yeah.
Those are the shoes I wore in old school when I ran the streets of beautiful Montrose, California. I think it's Montrose, out near Pasadena.
Yeah.
And I wore nothing but these shoes.
Did you bring another pair of shoes?
No.
You did not?
Yeah.
Because those would be...
they would be great, but they're not. They're staying with me.
Oh, they are?
Yeah. No, you get the bottle of Prosecco.
If I give the champagne back, can I have the streaking shoes?
Josh Duhamel told me you love leftover regifted bottles of liquor. And in fact, I challenged the rest of the week's guests to continue to give you bottles
champagne
of regifted.
Wait, what did you say?
Regifted. Regifted bottles of champagne.
So those are the shoes.
These are the shoes right here. Which when we shot that, we were rehearsing that scene, and it was, it's kind of one of those locations here in Southern California has kind of a very idyllic setting, so it can be anywhere USA, and it has this cute little main street where there are restaurants and people going about their business, and we're rehearsing it before the sun goes down, and I realize there's like I said, places of business, and there's a gym and people are working out, and I say to one of the ADs, has anyone told these people what's about to happen in T-minus 30 minutes? And they're like, don't worry about it. Let's keep rehearsing it. So we get ready. I'm in just a robe and nothing, and the green Adidas right here, old trusty discontinued models of Adidas here, and I drop the robe and we do the first take, and I literally, as I'm running, I can hear through the window people on their treadmills going, "Oh my God! Oh! Oh!" There wasn't laughter. There wasn't like, he's streaking. It was, oh. And by take 3, we'd cleared the gym. Everyone had left. Everyone had left.
Do you have a ball sack on?
A courtesy pouch?
A courtesy pouch.
AKA marble sack?
Yes.
Yes. I had that on.
You do.
For the courtesy of my fellow actors, I had the courtesy pouch on.
What size was that? Do they come in sizes?
It's one size fits all.
So these are carnitas.
Yes.
And
he braised them
and then at the end gave him like a char to give it some sizzle.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
I'm having trouble with this fork. I'm not good with it.
Mm. 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 Wait, where's McLovin?
How's that food taste? Sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no.
There you go, toddler.
Alan did a great job with the carnitas.
Oh, great, thank you.
Now we're allowed to eat on camera during the commercial break.
Right.
Right? But then we got yelled at before by management.
But those people don't run the show anymore.
Yeah,
so now it's
they're
your
all
call.
gone now.
It's your call.
But why was it okay to do it during the commercial break, but not when we're on TV?
I think it's a compliment to the chef and the sponsor.
It just looks bad.
Is that what the reason was?
I don't know. I'm not really all that interested in how it looks because I'm starving.
Yeah, I know.
You know.
Yeah. There we go.
Ooh, coleslaw. How's the coleslaw? Coleslaw's good.
Dang.
How much on the radio?
30 now.
Get that for your tequila.
Close up shop as we always do every Friday. Traeger Meat Friday. Arcade Fire. Sing along if you want. Except for Todd. Here we go. Good week. Thanks for the contributions to those in front of the camera and behind. Also, the audience, emailing, tweeting, watching, those on chat row. And also special thanks to Ethan, who's done an unbelievable job with our stats. Ethan, backing up what Seton said, in the early days of baseball, teams didn't have official nicknames. Officially, they were the Philadelphia National League Baseball Club. Nicknames evolved because writers came up with unofficial nicknames to spice up their stories, like the Phillies, Dodgers, Redlegs, etc. So that's according to Ethan. Ethan also pointed out that Aaron Rodgers did not take part in a single preseason snap a year ago. He was slated to play in the game in Winnipeg versus the Raiders, but the Packers saw the field conditions. They kept him on the sideline. That game was shortened to an 80-yard field goal because the end zone was a mess. Once again, that's just Ethan going above and beyond the call of duty, and we thank him for his contributions here. And by the way, Aaron Rodgers and Danica Patrick are officially Splitsville. Paulie thinks that means Aaron Rodgers. Now that's when you bet on him to be the MVP. Yes, Paulie.
Kind of sad about this one. Remember we had her in studio? She was backing her guy.
Yeah.
It was a good little thing they had going.
I know. I mentioned that I had heard John Legend do a version of Arcade Fire, and I just heard it yesterday. I don't know if you've ever... Do you have it, Seton? Have you heard of this? But John Legend did that Arcade Fire song. But maybe we can look and see if we can find that. Let me see. Jesse in L.A. Hey, Jess, what do you have for me today?
Hey, DP, happy Positivity Friday. Great
Thank
show
you.
this week.
Thanks, sir.
Hey, on that topic, this isn't the point of my question, but have you guys heard the David Bowie Arcade Fire performance of that song?
No.
If not, you should look it up. It's great. I think you'd love it. But the reason I call is I wanted to say thank you for saying this in the weekend with some laughter with Brian Baumgartner. He's always great, and it goes a long way with all that's going on. And a few weeks back, you did the same with Bob Uecker. And when you asked him how he was able to stick around the league for so long while being so average, and he responded with the absolute gem of a quote, laundry's got to be done. How about that?
Thank you, Jesse. Yeah, I'm getting to the point where the last guest on Friday, I want that person to provide some laughs. A little Friday fun, a little levity there. Our Traeger Meat Friday brought to you by Traeger Wood-Fired Grill. Visit your local dealer or head to TraegerGrills.com/DP show to get started here. This day in sports history, Paulie?
Dan, again, it's a little quiet, but 1994, Brazil won its record fourth World Cup, not four straight. Defeated Italy 3-2 on penalty kicks.
PKs.
Yeah. And the longest hitting streak in baseball history ended when Cleveland Indians pitchers held New York Yankee slugger Joe DiMaggio hitless for the first time in 57 games, 1941.
Yeah, I think the third baseman was Kenny Keltner, and he made a couple of real nice plays.
Buzzkill Keltner?
Yeah, and he and then DiMaggio, I think, went on and he had the streak stopped, and I think he went on after that to have an 18-game hitting streak, something crazy like that. And I think maybe Ethan will know, he struck out a total of 13 times that season, and he won the MVP, not Ted Williams, who batted .406. If that were to happen now, you can't do the 60-game season, but if somebody batted .400 or somebody had a 57-game hitting streak, and DiMaggio had great numbers too, and the Yankees won that year, but I wonder if the person who has a 57-game hitting streak and their team wins, that they would win the MVP over somebody batting .400. Yes, Paul?
I was looking at Joe DiMaggio's stats. He was an all-star every season of his 13-year career. He also missed age 28, 29, and 30 due to military service.
Yeah.
That's a big chunk, right in the prime.
Kyle in California. Hi, Kyle. What's on your mind today?
Hey, boys. Happy Friday. Wanted to make a quick Laker point and then a reference to your Cowboy quarterback list.
Okay.
They're going to miss playoff Rondo, I think, most. They need LeBron. They need that scoring when LeBron's off the court. And then in reference to your Cowboy quarterback list yesterday, I'm listening like I do all the time, long-time listener, and I hear my Uncle Babe's name be mentioned. I got to say, DP, I need a little more respect put on the man's name.
Wait, I said that I remember these names.
Hey, you threw him in like the last one, like he's chopped liver. Come on now.
Just the fact that I didn't mention Chad Hutchinson. Thank you, Kyle. Please tell Babe I said hello. Babe Laufenberg. Yeah, once you're a Cowboy quarterback, you just remember you just tick off all of those names. Who was Quincy Carter? Is he a Cowboy quarterback as well? Yes, McLevin.
There was a small era of Cowboy quarterbacks that they struggled there for a while. Chad Hutchinson.
I see a statement from Dan Snyder, and I'm up against the clock, but Snyder has addressed this basically. I mean, their words, that's great, but we'll see if there's actions here with Daniel Snyder. But he put out a statement here. Is there anything I need to mention here to be fair to the story, Paulie?
The opening line of a statement from Dan Snyder: the behavior described in the Washington Post has no place in our franchise and society. He talks about a full investigation. We'll do all work to improve policies and procedures in the future. That's a summary of it.
All right. Yeah, McLevin.
What helmet are they going to wear when they arrive in 10 days to camp?
I have no idea. Fritzy, what did you learn on today's award-winning program?
Our friend Chris Mannix, who hasn't been outside his hotel room since Sunday, says his room reminds him of his college dorm days. Unmade beds, food all over, no women anywhere to be found.
McLovin.
Jim actually did wear a wig in a season of The Office.
Seton O'Connor.
Jim wore a wig.
Yeah. Paulie?
Brian Baumgartner, good golfer, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. What did I learn on today's program?
Billie Eilish, huge fan of The Office, used cast members' voices in her hit song My Strange Addiction.
And I should have known that since I'm a Billie Eilish fan. What we learned brought to you by LegalZoom. You can start online, network of independent attorneys. They can provide advice when you need it. Since LegalZoom isn't a law firm, you don't have to leave your home. Visit LegalZoom.com today for more information. Have a great weekend, a safe weekend, everybody. Look forward to talking to you again on Monday here on The Dan Patrick Show.